Chapter 1050. In front of the floating city in the heavenly devil ancestral land, the three heavenly devil emperors joined hands to stop the peerless kings. The battle between the four supreme experts reached its climax as soon as it started. The Flying Swan Art's attack was heaven-shaking and earth-shattering. The Imperial Technique's defense was unparalleled under the heavens. The nine underworld's king's fate transformed into two supreme techniques. The Seven Brilliance Demon Emperor raised his hand and summoned the imperious laws. 7 black demonic suns rose into the sky and turned the primordial demon realm into a fiery hell. The 6 directions and 8 desolations, the beginning of the immemorial era. The 8 desolation demonic emperors used their supreme techniques at the same time. Sovereign Tao laws spread out and opened up a world in the scorching sun hell. With the two sovereigns working together, the laws of the major worlds within 10,000 miles stopped operating and were replaced by the laws of the Sovereign Tao. 9 Nether, my apologies. In the center of the battle, the first demon emperor, who had stopped the peerless king, flipped his palm and shook off the battle. The absolute demon showed his heavenly might, and the universe changed color. His body and Tao merged. The 9 underworld kings' expression turned cold when he saw the 3 sovereigns displaying their supreme demonic might. Blood and chi surged wildly around his body, and the black flames on his body rose to the extreme. Within the 10-fold devilish flames, the 9th underworld king's black hair danced wildly. His demonic aura shook the 9 heavens. The 4 of them pushed their battle prowess to the limit, and the outcome of the battle was decided immediately. At this moment, in the floating city, the heavens and earth shook, and the aftershocks roared. Not good. In the battle, 9 Nether and 8 Desolation sensed something and their expressions changed. They stopped fighting and rushed towards the floating city. The 2 demon emperors, Kuan-Yi and 7 luminaries, turned around and looked behind them. Their eyes narrowed slightly, but they did not stop him. Xian Yu and the young man's auras have disappeared, the 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor said. Go and see what's going on. The first Kuan Demon Emperor said in a serious tone. His figure flashed and he flew towards the floating city. In the floating city, above the blood pool, a spatial storm swept across, swallowing everything in the surroundings. The 9 Underworld King and the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor appeared. Looking at the mess after the battle, their faces were unusually heavy. Ba Huang, if anything happens to him, I will not let this matter rest. The 9th Underworld King said coldly. He took a step forward and left in pursuit of the remaining weak aura in the world. The first Kuan Demon Emperor and the 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor arrived too. Their expressions shifted when they saw the surroundings. The ultimate technique of the royal clan, eternal banishment. This kid was truly ruthless. Even towards himself, he didn't hesitate to banish him. Ba Huang, you've really made a mistake this time. Demon Emperor first Kuan sighed. I will go find you and come back. The 8 Desolation Demon Emperor did not say anything. He took a step forward and disappeared. After 9 underworlds and 8 desolates left, Demon Emperor Kuan-Yi looked at the destroyed blood pool and frowned. He raised his right hand and a supreme demonic aura spread out. In the next moment, the landscape around the blood pool changed. The blood chi gathered and returned to its original appearance. In the endless nothingness, in the wild space storm, a knowing destiny cultivator in plain clothes closed his eyes. His clothes were stained with blood, which was extremely dazzling. Not far away, Xian Yu looked at the figure in front of her in the spatial storm. Anxiety flashed across her beautiful face. The space storm rolled out, its power becoming more and more terrifying. The unconscious Ningchen was carried further and further away by the space storm. In a flash, he disappeared into the depths of the void. 13th brother. Regret flashed in Xian Yu's eyes. He moved quickly and chased after them. Half a month later, somewhere in the void, a figure covered in blood fell into the stream. Not far away, several fawns that were drinking water panicked and scattered in all directions. After a long time, 2 deer walked back curiously. When they saw that the human beside the stream did not move, they went forward and bowed. Then they jumped back in fear. Within a radius of 3,000 miles, Many powerful auras felt the change in space in the distance and looked over. Go and find out what is going on. Voices rang out from the various forces as they gave their orders. Yes. In an instant, figures flew out from various forces and rushed in the direction of the space fluctuation. In the Green Hills secret territory, the king of the Fox clan and the Fox clan elders also felt the violent space fluctuation in the distance. A strange look flashed across their eyes. Xiao Xiao, go and see what is going on, the king of the Fox clan said. Yes. In the green bamboo courtyard not far away, Xiao Xiao nodded gently. Just as she was about to move, she stopped and looked at the girl beside her. Let's go together. One, replied softly. After a few breaths, two figures flew out from the Green Hills secret territory and left quickly. A stream in the mountains flowed east. A figure in white clothes lay by the stream. A few deer surrounded her and licked her curiously. Clearly, they were very interested in the human who fell from the sky. Right at this moment, figures rushed over from all directions. Their powerful auras were shocking to the core. The deer sensed it and immediately ran away in panic, not daring to stay any longer. This is... The experts from various forces stopped and looked at the unconscious young man by the stream. Their expressions were solemn. What a powerful demonic chi. This person was from the Heavenly Demon Clan. Just as the experts from various forces arrived, the space trembled and two beautiful figures walked out. One of them was charming, making it hard for people to look away. The Saintess of the Fox clan. Seeing who it was, everyone was shocked and did not dare to offend her. It's him! When Xiao Xiao saw the figure by the stream, her eyes trembled as she exclaimed. Sister, do you know him? One asked softly from the side. Xiao Xiao nodded and replied, he is the 9th Underworld King's disciple. However, shouldn't he be in the primordial demon domain now? How did he end up like this? Hearing that, one looked at the man by the stream seriously. After a while, she walked over. The stream was dyed red with blood. It was bleak. One walked forward and checked the situation. She did not mind and carried Ning Chen, who was covered in blood. Sister, let's go back, Oner said softly. Okay. Xiao Xiao nodded and replied. The two left and the crowd made way for them. No one dared to stop them. The Fox clan was a royal clan. They could not offend them. In the Green Hills secret territory, the two returned. One looked at the person beside her and said softly, he is heavily poisoned and needs to be treated. I won't go back with you. Xiao Xiao frowned slightly but did not say anything. She nodded and agreed. The two separated. One went to report while the other went to the green bamboo courtyard not far away. Not long after, one returned with the unconscious Ning Chen on her back. She opened the door of her room and placed the ladder on the bed. The woman's clean clothes were dyed red with blood. One did not seem to notice and carefully took off the wet clothes of the man on the bed. On the bed, Ning Chen's body was abnormally red. Blood flowed from his cracked skin and dyed the bedsheet red. Is it the desire poison? One looked at him and murmured softly. It was not difficult to detoxify the desire poison. However, she was not willing to do so. She couldn't give herself to him on their first meeting. However, other than this method, the price to detoxify the desire poison was not cheap. I will save you. I hope you will not let me down in the future. One cut her wrist. Blood flowed out and fell on Ning Chen's body. The Fox clan was the best in the world when it came to charming people. Their understanding of the desire poison was not inferior to anyone. The blood of the Fox clan's king flowed in her body. Few people could match her resistance to the desire poison. Blood fell on Ning Chen's body and seeped into his cracked skin bit by bit to resist the power of the desire poison. Wan-Er's face turned pale after the Fox clan's king blood left her body. It was obvious that the loss of blood had a great impact on her. At this moment, the Fox clan's fairy Xiao Xiao appeared outside the bamboo house. Her expression changed when she saw the situation in the room. Without any explanation, Xiao Xiao immediately walked into the room, grabbed his hand, and sealed his wound. Are you crazy? Losing so much blood qi will destroy your foundation. Xiao Xiao said angrily as she looked at her younger sister. He will be my husband in the future. Therefore I must save him. Wan smiled tiredly and broke free. She cut her arm again and smeared her blood all over Ning Chen's body. The king blood entered Ning Chen's body and merged with the heavenly demon king's blood. The two different types of king blood did not repel each other. Instead, the desire poison was expelled bit by bit. As the blood left Ning Chen's body, 9 white fox tails appeared behind Wan. In the blink of an eye, one of them disappeared and turned into starlight. Xiao Xiao's pupils shrunk when she saw this. 9 tails. At the same time, the Fox Clan's king and the other elders felt the changes in the bamboo house. Their expressions changed. How could this be? What, was also a fairy? In the bamboo hut, behind Wanner, the shadows of the fox tails disappeared one after another. The first time the 9 tails appeared, it destroyed the foundation. After a while, the Fox Clan's king appeared in the house. He looked at his daughter and asked, "When did you awaken?" 10 years ago. Wan replied tiredly as she continued to smear blood all over Ning Chen's body. "Why have you never mentioned it before?" The Fox Clan's king asked. The appearance of a fairy in the Fox Clan has already made the 100 races fearful. If a second fairy appears, it will be a disaster for the Fox Clan, Wan said softly. At this point, Wan looked at her mother and smiled. Paper can't cover fire. It's already difficult to hide the fact that sister is a fairy. If the 100 races know that a second fairy has appeared in the Fox Clan, the consequences will be unimaginable. The Fox Clan's king's heart was in turmoil when he heard his second daughter's words. All this time, Wan had been very ordinary. She was not much stronger than ordinary fox girls. Even her mother rarely spent too much effort on her second daughter. She never thought that Wan was the smartest person in the Fox Clan. She used her ordinary self to silently protect the Fox Clan. 9 tails scattered. Wan looked at the man on the bed whose aura was gradually stabilizing. A gratified smile appeared on her face. Intense exhaustion came. Wan, who had lost half of her king blood, could no longer hold on and fainted. Xiao Xiao went forward and supported her younger sister. Her expression was complicated. She felt some heartache and some guilt. If not for her, Wan might not have to suffer like this. She owed her younger sister too much. Chapter 1051. Green Hill's Secret Realm, Green Bamboo Courtyard. The Fox Clan's holy maiden revealed her true appearance. 9 illusory white tails appeared, shocking everyone. Wan's royal blood cleansed her meridians to resist the desire poison. Wan's blood chi was rapidly depleted, and the 9 tails behind her dissipated. Her blood chi dissipated, and her foundation was damaged. The 9 tails appeared, but they quickly dissipated. The 4 tails shattered, turning into starlight and disappearing from the world. An intense sense of exhaustion attacked her. Wan's consciousness became dizzy, and she fell straight to the ground. Xiao Xiao saw this and immediately went up to support her. "Mother!" Xiao Xiao looked at the woman beside her and said, "Let's arrange for Wan to rest first. I'll deal with this young man after discussing with the elders," the Fox Clan's king said calmly. Xiao Xiao nodded and did not ask any more questions. She carefully helped her sister to the bed and lay down beside the man on the bed for the time being. The Fox Clan's king then left. She needed to discuss the matter between Wan and this young man with the elders as soon as possible and make the best decision for the Fox Clan. The fact that Wan was a holy maiden had shocked her. She knew better than anyone what a holy maiden meant to the Fox Clan. Xiao Xiao looked at the 2 unconscious people on the bed and sighed softly. She had known too little about her sister all this time. Wan was quiet and did not like conflict. Although she was the princess, her presence in the Fox Clan was extremely low. She lived a simple life and did not care about worldly affairs. This was Wan's life for hundreds of years. In the Fox Clan's sacred palace, the Fox Clan's king sat on the main seat. Below him, the Fox Clan's elders sat on both sides with solemn expressions. Since Wan is a holy maiden, then let's forget about the marriage between her and the 9th Underworld King's disciple. The Fox Clan's Grand Elder said solemnly, "No matter what, our holy maiden cannot marry into another clan." The Fox clan's elders fell silent. This matter was very difficult. The appearance of a holy maiden should have been a blessing for the Fox clan. However, the Fox clan already had one holy maiden. Now that there was a second one, it could very well be a disaster for the Fox clan. No matter if it was the other royal clans or the sovereign clans, they could not sit and watch the Fox clan have two emperors in the future. This is not absolute. In front of the Grand Elder of the Fox clan, a white-haired old woman said, "In order to save the 9th Underworld King's disciple, Earth's foundation was severely damaged. It's still unknown if she can recover her 9 tails in the future. Furthermore, having a fairy is enough for the Fox clan. If marries into the celestial fiend royal family, our Fox clan will be able to obtain the 9th Underworld King's protection. This will definitely bring more benefits to our Fox clan than harm. Rather than placing our hopes on others, why don't we become stronger ourselves? As long as the two fairies can attain the position of emperor in the future, our Fox clan will become the strongest clan below the heavenly demons," the Fox clan Grand Elder said in a deep voice. "Great Elder, aren't you thinking too simply? Let's not talk about whether or not can recover. Even if she can, will the 100 tribes give us the time to do so? Rather than that, why don't we form a marriage alliance with the celestial devil royal family? At least the 100 tribes will be afraid of the 9th Underworld King's prestige and won't dare to act rashly," the white-haired old woman said coldly. On the main seat, the Fox King listened to the two's argument and frowned from time to time. Both elders had a point, and it was really hard to choose. Just as the elders of the Fox clan were discussing, a painful groan sounded in the small bamboo courtyard. On the bed, demonic chi surged around Ji Ming's body. The heavenly demon king's blood that had fused with the 9-tailed fairy's blood began to mutate. The demonic blood devoured the fairy's blood, and its demonic power became more and more shocking. The fairy of the Fox clan was born with 9 tails. She was a natural emperor, and her bloodline was extremely powerful, not inferior to any royal bloodline. In Ning Chen's body, when the demonic blood met the fairy's blood, it was like rain after a long drought, and it began to devour it crazily. For a moment, the entire bamboo hut was filled with demonic chi, and its power was shocking. Boom! At that moment, thunder rumbled in the sky, and the path to immortality opened. Sunlight shone down on the world. Below, in the bamboo hut, Ning Chen opened his eyes. The heavenly demon 9 transformations shook the stars. He took a step forward and disappeared in an instant. In the sky, a white-clothed figure appeared. Her white hair danced wildly, and she looked like a demon. With a rumble, thunder fell from the sky. The shocking power shook the entire Qingqiu secret territory. Heavenly tribulation. In the Fox clan's imperial palace, the Fox King and the other elders' expressions changed. They all stood up and looked outside the palace. Boom! Tens of thousands of bolts of lightning fell from the sky. The dazzling lightning instantly drowned the white-clothed figure below. Within the lightning, Ning Chen stood in the air, unmoving like a mountain. Demonic flames surged out of his body. The flying swan art appeared for the first time, and its shocking demonic chi collided with the heavenly tribulation. The sickly king's peerless divine weapon, which was forged from the immortal slaying foundation, revealed its sharpness. With a slash of his sword, 10,000 miles of space split open. The earth rumbled, and a huge pitch-black ravine appeared in the sky above the Qingqiu kingdom. It spread for 10,000 miles, shocking the world. In front of the imperial palace, the Fox clan and the other elders were shocked when they saw this terrifying sword. This child's mastery of the sword was too terrifying. With the flying swan art, the peerless divine weapon could cut through the sky and split the sea. After one slash, the lightning in the sky collapsed. The thunderclouds that hadn't completely gathered dissipated, returning to the world. With one slash, the shocking scene was reflected in the eyes of the Fox clan. It took a long time for them to regain their senses. In the sky, Ning Chen waved his hand and put away the sickly king's divine sword. The demonic flames around him also dissipated. He landed and walked back to the bamboo hut. In front of the hut, Xiao Xiao looked at the man who passed by her. Her heart was in turmoil. It had only been a few months, And this person's strength had become even more terrifying. In the bamboo hut, on the bed, the woman was still unconscious. Half of her blood qi had left her body, and her beautiful face was abnormally pale. Ningchen walked forward and looked at the woman on the bed. He pressed his hand on her chest, and the scroll of life activated. Endless life force flowed into her body. Lord Ning. Xiao Xiao walked into the room and looked at the figure in front of the bed. No need to say more. I know what happened just now, Ningchen said calmly. Ningchen replied calmly, I won't let anything happen to her. Xiao Xiao nodded. She looked confused and said, Lord Ning, you just entered the Sky Devil royal family. How did you end up like this? This cannot be explained in a few words, Ningchen said softly. Ningchen lightly replied, This one has yet to thank Miss Xiao Xiao and Miss Wan for saving my life. I didn't do anything. If you want to thank me, then wait until Wan wakes up. Xiao Xiao sighed. Ningchen nodded. Looking at the woman on the bed, his gaze became gentle. Behind him, Xiao Xiao stood quietly for a while and then left the room. She believed that Lord Ning could take good care of her sister. She hoped that Wan choice this time was not wrong. Time passed. Ningchen stood quietly in front of the bed. Outside the bamboo hut, the sky darkened. Night fell. The entire Qingqiu mysterious territory quieted down. On the bed, the woman opened her eyes. At first, she was in a daze. Then she calmed down. She looked over at the man beside the bed. Wan smiled gently and said, Are you okay? I'm okay. Ningchen said softly. Can you help me up? Wan asked gently. Ningchen nodded. He stepped forward and carefully helped the woman up. He said gently, Be careful. You've lost too much blood qi. If you feel uncomfortable, just tell me. Wan smiled and said, I'm not that delicate. After lying here for a day, I want to go out for a walk. Ningchen nodded and helped the woman out of the bed. They walked out of the room together. In the small courtyard, the shadows of the bamboos reflected the moon. As the autumn wind blew, the bamboo leaves swayed and rustled. Lady Wan thank you for saving my life. Outside the room, Ningchen helped the woman beside him and said softly, It's what I should do. Wan smiled and said, Lord Ning, there's something you don't know yet. What is it? Ningchen asked. The Fox clan is going to marry the Sky Devil royal family. The chosen ones are you and me. Wan said softly. Hearing this, Ningchen frowned. I know Lord Ning might not be willing, but it's unavoidable. Wan said softly, Since young Master Ning has become a member of the Celestial Devil Imperial family, you can't decide your own marriage. My sister is a fairy, which means that the Fox clan will have an Emperor Realm Master in the future. Just for this reason, the Celestial Devil Imperial family will agree to our marriage with both hands. Lady Wan agreed? Ningchen frowned again and asked, Before today, you and I didn't know each other. Lady Wan shouldn't be willing. Wan smiled and said, Actually, I was the one who suggested it. Since we can't decide on our marriage, why don't we choose someone we don't hate? The 9th Underworld King's pride is well known throughout the world. Someone who can be his disciple will definitely not be ordinary. Ningchen listened to the woman's confession and sighed softly. Miss Wan, I already have a wife. How many? Wan asked softly. Ningchen was startled and answered honestly, 1. Where is she? Wan continued to ask. Ningchen was silent. After a long time, he said, She passed away. I'm sorry. Wan said apologetically. It's fine. Ningchen shook his head and said, Lady Wan you're a good girl. You should find someone you like who also likes you. My heart can't hold anyone else. In this life he owed too much. He couldn't let down such a kind girl. Wan was silent. She looked at the bamboo in the courtyard. After a long time, she sighed and said, As a member of the royal family, we can't ask for a perfect relationship. Lord Ning, I know you don't like me, but you don't have a choice. At this point, Wan looked at the man beside her and said softly, Young Master Ning, even if the person you choose in the future is not me, it will be another royal family's princess or royal family's royal daughter. Compared to them, Wan or should be more suitable for you. When Ning Chen heard the woman's words, he sighed deeply in his heart and said, Miss Wan, why must you put yourself through this? I'm the Fox Clan's princess, so I have to consider the future of the Fox Clan. As long as the Fox Clan and the Sky Devil royal family have a marriage alliance, even if the 100 clans know that my sister is the nine-tailed fairy, they won't dare to act rashly. The Fox Clan needs time. Marrying into the Sky Devil royal family is the best way, one heir said softly. Chapter 1052. Half a month had passed in the blink of an eye. Wanra's body was getting better. Although her foundation hadn't recovered yet, she could move like a normal person. Ning Chen rarely left the green bamboo courtyard during this half a month. He was taking care of the Fox Clan's heavenly lady who was heavily injured because of him. Just as Wanra's body was getting better, demonic chi surged outside Green Hill's secret realm as a domineering figure appeared. A peerless king had personally come to Green Hill. In the Fox Clan's sacred palace, the Fox King and the elders were shocked when they sensed the powerful demonic chi from afar. The 9th Underworld King had actually come personally. Go out and welcome him, the Fox King said as he stood up from his throne. The elders of the Fox Clan accepted the order and walked out of the palace together. Outside the secret realm, the array opened and the Fox King led the elders out. They bowed to the peerless king who had appeared in Green Hill. 9th Underworld King, please forgive us for not going out to welcome you, the Fox King said with a smile. No need to be so polite. I'm here to bring Ning Chen back. Where is he? The 9th Underworld King said calmly. 13th Prince is currently in Green Hill as a guest. 9th Underworld King, please. The Fox King said and moved aside, making a path for the 9th Underworld King. Thank you. The 9th Underworld King nodded and walked toward Green Hill's secret realm. In the green bamboo courtyard, Ning Chen sensed something and looked into the distance. He had finally come. Is it the 9th Underworld King? Wanra asked softly. Yes. Ning Chen nodded. Are you leaving? Wanra's eyes flashed with sadness. It wasn't that she had truly fallen in love with him after being together for a dozen days. It was just that humans weren't plants and couldn't be emotionless. After being together for so long, she would more or less be reluctant to part with him. It's time to go back. Ning Chen's eyes flashed coldly. My mission in the Heavenly Demon Clan isn't over yet. I'll return this time to repay kindness and revenge. The Heavenly Demon Imperial Clan's power is unfathomable. You have to be careful, Wanra said with concern. I will. Ning Chen nodded and said with a smile, Miss Wanra, you don't have to worry. I'm good at scheming. As long as those 3 devil emperors don't do anything, I won't be in any danger in 3 Imperial City. Before he even finished speaking, a beautiful figure walked over from outside the green bamboo courtyard. It was the Fox Clan's saintess, Xiao Xiao. She looked at him and said, Sir Ning, Imperial Mother invites you over. In front of the bamboo house, Wanra sighed inwardly. She gathered her thoughts and a gentle smile appeared on her face. She said, Sir Ning, you can go. Ning Chen nodded and didn't say anything else. He strode out of the courtyard. The 9 Underworld King had fought with the 3 demon emperors because of his disciple. The entire 3 Imperial City had seen it clearly. Everyone was guessing whether the 13th Prince was in danger or not. 9th brother, it seems that we need to visit our 13th brother. In the 7th Prince's residence, Xianling looked at the 9 Underworld King's residence and said with a smile. The 9th Prince frowned slightly and said in confusion, 7th brother's status is noble. How can you visit an outsider personally? You don't understand. Our 13th brother is very popular now. Xianling said with a smile. 7th brother, why do you say that? The 9th Prince asked. Xianling put down the wine cup in his hand and said with a smile, As you said, our 13th brother is an outsider. Since he is an outsider, unless he obtains the imperial throne with his own strength, there is no way for him to inherit the throne. In this way, he is not much of a threat to me. However, Xianling's tone changed and he continued, Our 13th brother's master is a terrifying figure who can influence the decisions of the 3 demon emperors. If we are on good terms with our 13th brother, It means that we will have a strong support. Hearing this, a pondering look flashed across the ninth prince's face. A moment later, he asked, "Seventh brother, you should know that when the ninth Serenity King and his disciple entered the imperial family, most of the imperial family members had spoken out against it. If we take the initiative to be on good terms with the ninth Serenity King's estate, will it make the imperial family members who support us feel resentment? What they think is not something we need to consider." Xianling said faintly, "In terms of influence, the 10 imperial family members are not comparable to the 9 underworld king who is comparable to an imperial expert. Seventh brother, have you ever thought that if the 9 underworld king becomes a real imperial expert one day, our 13th brother will be a big threat to us?" The ninth prince said seriously, "If that day really comes, there will be people more anxious than us." Xianling sneered and said, "Go and prepare. Our third brother should have the same plan. Now, let's see whose sincerity can move our 13th brother more." The ninth prince nodded and said seriously, "In the third prince's residence, the 9 underworld king had just returned." Xianqing left the crown prince's residence and rushed to the 9 underworld king's residence. "Brother!" In the first prince's residence, the 5th prince looked at the secret reports from the 3rd prince's residence and the 7th prince's residence and said in a low voice, "Third brother and 7th brother are preparing to win over our 13th brother. Brother, you should act as soon as possible." "No need." Xianzhen said coldly, "It is useless for us to win over our 13th brother now." "Why?" The 5th prince did not understand. "Do you know what my stupid sister did?" Xianzhen's face flashed coldly. "This time, 13th brother almost couldn't come back because of Xianyu. Although I don't have much contact with Xianyu, she's still my sister. 13th brother won't accept my invitation because of this." Hearing this, the 5th prince's expression turned serious and he said, "Elder brother, you should give it a try. After all, the person standing behind the 13th prince is the 9th underworld king. The 9th underworld king's attitude will definitely affect the decision of the 3 demon emperors. That's a matter for the future." Xianzhen said faintly, "The 3 demon emperors have a long lifespan. The inheritance of the demon emperors is still very far away. There is no need to rush. Moreover, the demon emperor does not necessarily have to inherit the demon emperor's position. Who knows what will happen in the future?" "But," the 5th prince said anxiously, "Brother, you should know how difficult it is to achieve the demon emperor's position with one's own strength. Only by inheriting the demon emperor's position and obtaining the fate of the demon emperor will you be able to successfully enter the demon emperor realm. The demon emperor's fate of the demon emperors is the reason why the demon emperor's fate of the demon emperors are getting worse with each generation. There are many people who have inherited the fate of the demon emperors but are still unable to enter the demon emperor realm. Therefore, instead of placing all your hopes on inheriting the demon emperor's position, it is better to cultivate diligently and obtain the fruit of the demon emperor's path with one's own strength," Xianzhen said calmly. In the 9 underworld king's palace, Ningchen personally brewed some tea and brought it to the 9 underworld king. 6th heavenly layer? The 9 underworld king took the tea and took a sip. Ningchen nodded and replied, "The 9 changes of the demon emperor's 6th heavenly layer is equivalent to the human race's immortal realm. You are lucky to be able to enter this realm." The 9 underworld king said calmly. "Thank you, master," Ningchen said. He had sensed the 9 underworld king and the 3 demon emperors fighting outside Floating City from the blood pool. There was no doubt that his master really cared about him. "It's good that you are fine." The 9 underworld king had a gentle expression. "There is one thing that I would like to ask for your opinion on." "What is it?" Ningchen asked seriously. "The king of the Fox Kings wants to betroth his daughter to you. She is the one who saved your life." The 9th underworld king said with a serious expression, "Ningchen, you are now the 13th prince of the heavenly demon clan. A marriage alliance is a must. The king of the Fox clan has already told this king about Miss 1's identity as a fairy. I think this marriage is the most suitable choice for you." Chapter 1053. In the palace of the 9 underworld king, the master and disciple looked at each other. After a long while, the 9 underworld kings said calmly, "What do you think? One is a good girl. I don't want to hold her back." Ning Chen sighed. The Fox clan has 2 fairies. If they don't submit to the Sky Devil Imperial family, it will be an unimaginable disaster for them. The 9 underworld king looked at his disciple and said seriously, "The marriage between the clans has always been the most common thing. That girl is the 9-tailed fairy, so it's not a disgrace to you. As for whether you have feelings for each other, it's not important for the marriage between the clans. Girls shouldn't be sacrificed for the marriage between the clans." Ning Chen said softly, "This is a world where the strong are respected. If you don't have the strength to control your own fate, you have to accept the arrangements of the strong." The 9 underworld kings said calmly, "Ning Chen, I don't want to force you. However, it's difficult for you to decide your marriage. Even if I don't force you, the imperial family and the 3 demon emperors will interfere." At this point, the 9th Nether King paused for a moment before continuing. "In addition, that girl called one, has saved your life. According to my intentions, since the Fox clan wants to protect themselves through marriage with the Sky Devil Imperial clan, you should agree to this marriage. Firstly, you can repay the Fox clan's kindness. Secondly, you can prevent the Imperial clan's relatives or the 3 demon emperors from using this opportunity to arrange their trusted aides into my 9th Nether King mansion." Hearing this, Ning Chen fell silent. After a while, he said, "Master, please give me a few days to consider." The 9 underworld king nodded and said, "There's no rush. This isn't something that can be decided in a day or 2. You've just joined the Sky Devil Imperial family, so there will be many things that will come to you. You have to be mentally prepared." "I understand," Ning Chen said softly. "Because of Master's existence, I'm sure many people have already begun to move. The 9 underworld king's palace won't be quiet for long." The 9 underworld king nodded slightly and said, "I won't care about these things. You have full authority to deal with them." As soon as he finished speaking, a guard quickly walked in front of the palace and said respectfully, "Your Highness, 13th Prince, the 3rd Prince requests an audience." He came quickly. Ning Chen turned and looked outside the palace and said, "Invite him in." The guard accepted the order and turned to leave. "All right, the rest is up to you young people. I won't get involved." With that, the 9th underworld king stood up and walked towards the back of the palace. He had no interest in the power struggle that would ensue. "Master." Behind him, Ning Chen asked with a serious expression, "How far can I go?" The 9th underworld king stopped in his tracks and turned around to look at his disciple. He said calmly, "As long as you have a clear conscience, you can do whatever you want. If anything happens, you have to deal with the 3 sovereigns by yourself. As for the 3 sovereigns, I will take care of them for you." Hearing this, Ning Chen bowed deeply and said, "This disciple understands." The 9th underworld king smiled and didn't say anything else. He turned around and left the hall. As a disciple of the 9 underworlds, apart from being ordinary, everything he did was right. The 9th underworld king had just left the palace when Xian Qing, who was dressed in white, walked over. His face was handsome and heroic. The 3rd crown prince of the Celestial Devil Imperial clan was a peerless genius of the Imperial clan. He'd stepped into the king realm at a young age, and his strength was unfathomable. Among all the princes, Xian Qing's cultivation was not the strongest. However, when it came to tolerance, few could compare to him. As the legitimate son of the 1st demon emperor, Xian Qing was considered the most likely one to inherit the throne among the 3 princes. His performance all along could be said to be perfect and flawless. No one could find any flaw in him. Xian Qing's evaluation of him was the most appropriate one to say that he was well-rounded and flawless. 13th brother. Outside the palace, Xian Qing walked over with a smile. He looked at the young man in the palace and said, "Seeing that you have returned safely, I am relieved. Greetings to the 3rd prince." Ning Chen bowed. Seeing this, Xian Qing quickly walked over and helped him up. He said, "We are brothers. Why are you being so polite?" "I still have to follow the rules." Ning Chen stood up and smiled. "3rd brother, please take a seat." Xian Qing looked at the person in front of him and said, "I haven't seen you for a month. Your cultivation seems to have improved again. Thanks to third brother, I was lucky to have a breakthrough. However, compared to third brother, I am still lacking a lot. Ningchen said softly. 13th brother, you are too modest. Xianqing sat down on a seat and said, when I was your age, my cultivation was far from yours. According to your cultivation speed, you will surpass me in at most 100 years. Ningchen smiled and walked to the side to bring the tea that he had prepared. He poured a cup and pushed it in front of Xianqing. He said, third brother, please have some tea. Xianqing nodded and picked up the tea. He tasted it carefully and nodded. Good. Third brother, do you know where the art of tea originated from? Ningchen asked softly. The human race. Xianqing said calmly. Ningchen nodded and poured a cup of tea for himself. He took a sip and said, the human race invented the art of tea. Unfortunately, among the 100 races, many races have surpassed the human race in terms of tea. They are stuck in their own ways and do not want to improve themselves. Xianqing said lightly. Not to mention the art of tea, even in terms of martial arts, the human race has wasted the talent given by the heavens and fallen behind the 100 races. Ningchen drank the tea in his cup silently and did not interrupt. The human race's lifespan and physical strength are indeed not as good as the 100 races. However, in terms of cultivation speed, the 100 races cannot compare with the human race. Just like 13th brother, you have such amazing achievements in just 100 years of cultivation. This is absolutely unimaginable among the 100 races. Xianqing put down the teacup in his hand and continued, the human race is weak for a reason. Compared to the human race who indulges in pleasure, the living environment of the heavenly demon clan fates that everyone is born to be a warrior. No matter male or female, they have to go through big and small battles to survive. Therefore, in the primeval demon realm, the heavenly demon clan can become the true rulers. Ningchen listened quietly. After a long time, he smiled and said, Third Imperial brother, may I know the reason for your visit? To form an alliance. Xianqing looked at the person in front of him and did not hide his intention at all. He said, 13th brother, a straightforward person does not resort to insinuations. You should know that you and 9th uncle entering the royal family is an outcome that most of the royal family members do not want to see. 13th brother's future in the royal family is destined to not be peaceful. I can promise that I will do my best in the future to help 13th brother gain a foothold in the royal family and become a true prince of the heavenly demon royal family. To be honest, I am not interested in these power struggles. Ningchen looked at the tea leaves floating in the teacup in his hand and said, Third brother, the heavenly demon royal family's waters are too deep. I really do not want to get involved. This time, I suffered for no reason and am already exhausted. I really do not have the energy to get involved in the power struggles. I can only apologize to you, third brother. Hearing this, Xianqing frowned slightly and said, 13th brother, I do not know much about this matter. If there is anything I can do, please tell me. Ningchen shook his head and sighed. It is all in the past. Third brother, power struggles are not my forte. Please do not make things difficult for me. Chapter 1054. In the palace of the Nine Serenities King, the atmosphere was tense. Ningchen's firm attitude made Xianqing even more confused. In his mind, 13th Prince would not reject his suggestion. After all, he had known 13th Prince the longest among the 3 princes of the royal family. They had always been on good terms. Xianqing picked up the tea in front of him and thought quickly. The Nine Serenities King's existence was too important. He could not let him stand on the side of the other 2 princes. 13th brother, if you have any concerns, just tell me. After all, the 9th royal uncle is not suitable for some things. Although I am not talented, I still have some power in the 3rd royal city. Xianqing put down the teacup in his hand and looked at Ningchen seriously. Thank you for your kindness, 3rd royal brother. I don't have any trouble and I don't want to get into any trouble. I'm afraid that I will let you down. Please forgive me. Ningchen was not moved at all and replied softly. Xianqing frowned when he heard that. He thought for a while and nodded slightly. Everyone has their own ambitions. 13th brother, you don't want to get involved in the fight for the throne. I don't want to force you either. This is a blood dragon fruit. It can help you refine your blood so that you can return to your ancestral roots sooner. I don't deserve it. This gift is too valuable. I can't accept it. Ningchen refused. He did not want to accept it. It's just a small gift from you. All right, 13th brother, you just came back and need to rest. I won't disturb you. Then, Xianqing put the wooden box with the blood dragon fruit on the table and turned around to leave. After Xianqing left, Ningchen looked at the wooden box on the table and thought, the next one should be here soon. Waiting for the right price can indeed increase your value. However, it can also backfire. The three princes of the Celestial Devil Imperial family are not stupid. You have to know when to advance and when to retreat. The 9th Serenity King's voice rang out in the palace. I understand. Ningchen nodded and said, Master, don't worry. I know what I am doing. It's good that you understand. In the coming days, I will do my best to prepare for the breakthrough to the Imperial Plane. You are in charge of the 9 Serenities King's mansion for the time being. The 9 Serenities King continued. Master, please don't worry. This disciple will take care of the big and small matters of the prince's mansion. Ningchen softly replied. Be cautious and act boldly. The 9th Nether King Manor has never been afraid of any trouble. Even if the sky falls, Master will bear it with you. His last words echoed in the palace for a long time. In the palace, Ningchen stood quietly without saying a word. At that moment, 2 powerful Qi arrived outside the imperial palace. One of them had reached the king level. Although there was still a gap between them and Xianqing, it was enough to surpass most of the princes and princesses. He's here. Ningchen collected his thoughts. His eyes glittered. The son of the 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor, the 7th Prince Xianling, 13th Prince, the 7th Prince and the 9th Prince have come to visit. The guard stepped forward and congratulated him. Invite him in. Ningchen said. Yes. The guard accepted the order and turned to leave quickly. Not long after, 2 figures walked in front of the imperial palace. The one in the lead was a young man dressed in purple. His features were slightly feminine, and he looked too feminine. Greetings, 7th Crown Prince, 9th Imperial Brother. Ningchen took 2 steps forward and bowed. You're welcome, 13th Brother. Xianling stepped forward and helped Ningchen up. He smiled and said, I heard that 3rd Imperial Brother was here. Did he leave already? 3rd Imperial Brother left not long ago. Didn't 7th Imperial Brother see him? Ningchen stood up and asked. 3rd Imperial Brother's residence is in a different direction from mine. Maybe we missed each other. Xianling smiled and said, 3rd Brother, you must be here to congratulate 13th Brother on officially becoming the head of the royal family. Our brother is always 1 step ahead of us. Ningchen smiled and didn't say anything. He stepped aside and said, 7th Imperial Brother, 9th Imperial Brother, please. Xianling nodded and walked into the imperial palace. The 9th Imperial Prince followed behind. The moment they passed each other, he sized up Xianling. A strange light flashed in his eyes. The first time they met in the imperial palace, the 13th Prince hadn't reached the mortal realm yet. He didn't expect him to take such a crucial step in just a month. Inside the imperial palace, Ningchen invited the 2 imperial princes to sit down. He poured tea and then sat down opposite them. 9th Imperial Uncle's palace doesn't even have a maid to serve tea. I have to trouble 13th Imperial Brother to do such a small thing. The 9th Imperial Prince frowned. My master and I like quiet, so we didn't arrange for maids to work in the palace. Ningchen smiled. How can that be? You are now an Imperial Prince. Even if you stay in the 9th Imperial Uncle's palace, you can't not have a maid to serve you. The 9th Imperial Prince scolded softly, Tomorrow I will arrange for a few maids to come to the palace. 13th Imperial Brother can use them first. If you are not satisfied, you can tell 9th Imperial Brother. Thank you for your kindness, 9th Imperial Brother. It's just that. Ningchen looked embarrassed. He was about to continue when he was interrupted. This is 9th Imperial Brother's kindness. 13th Imperial Brother, don't refuse. Xianling smiled. Ningchen heard this and sighed softly. Thank you, Ninth Imperial Brother. The Ninth Imperial Prince nodded with satisfaction. He was still thinking about how to arrange people in the Ninth Imperial Palace. He didn't expect his 13th Imperial Brother to give him a chance. Since Ninth Imperial Brother has given you a gift, Seventh Imperial Brother can't be stingy. As soon as he finished speaking, Xianling flipped his left hand and a palm-sized jade box appeared. The moment the jade box was opened, the entire palace was filled with the color of wind and thunder. An unusually strong power surged out, shocking everyone. Ningchen narrowed his eyes. What a powerful medicine. This is the Honorable King Pill. Xianling smiled. It can increase the chances of a person at the peak of the Red Dust Realm to enter the King Realm. 13th Imperial Brother, it will be useful when you reach the 7th transformation of the Omen Realm. Xianling handed the Honorable King Pill to Ningchen and said, since you have received 9th Imperial Brother's gift, you can't refuse 7th Imperial Brother's gift. It's too expensive. Ningchen didn't reach out to take it. He looked solemn. 7th Imperial Brother is not as generous as your 3rd Imperial Brother. I don't have many things that I can take out. Only this Honorable King Pill is not embarrassing. If 13th Imperial Brother doesn't accept it, you are looking down on me. Xianling pretended to be unhappy and said, 7th Imperial Brother, you are too kind. Ningchen said helplessly, just accept it. That's right. There is no need to be so polite between brothers. Xianling smiled and said, 13th Imperial Brother, if you need anything, just tell me. Even if 7th Imperial Brother doesn't have it, I will find a way to get it for you. I don't need anything, but I have a question. I wonder if 7th Imperial Brother knows about it? Ningchen asked. 13th Imperial Brother, please speak. Xianling said. Before entering the zone of demons, I had many conflicts with the young lord of the Rock Clan. Although I was lucky enough to defeat Aolai last time, I also suffered a lot in the face of the Rock Clan's speed. So, I want to know if there is a cultivation technique in this world that can suppress the Rock Clan's speed. If you meet the young lord of the Rock Clan or even the old Rock King in the future, you won't be too embarrassed. Ningchen said seriously. Xianling frowned when he heard this. He had heard about the conflict between his 13th Imperial Brother and the young lord of the Rock Clan in Jueyang Ancient City. Although the young lord of the Rock Clan had a bad temper, he was still quite powerful. The Rock Clan had the fastest speed among the 100 clans. Even the Heavenly Devil Imperial family couldn't compete with them. The old Rock King was also known as the number 1 under the Imperial Dao. He was very difficult to deal with. After thinking for a long time, Xianling shook his head and said, the Rock Clan's talent is indeed unique. There is no other way except to suppress with absolute power. Is there no race or secret technique that can surpass the Rock Clan's speed in this world? Ningchen frowned. Xianling was silent. After a while, he shook his head again and said, I don't think so. On the side, the 9th Prince opened his mouth. He wanted to say something but swallowed it back. The atmosphere was tense and it was not easy to talk. Xianling stood up and smiled. 13th Imperial Brother, you just came back and need time to rest. Your 9th Imperial Brother and I will not disturb you any longer. We will leave first. Ningchen stood up and said, 13th Imperial Brother, see you off. Xianling and the 9th Prince nodded. They turned and left the palace. Ningchen saw the two of them to the gate of the palace. He stopped and watched the two of them leave. 7th Imperial Brother, you clearly had the chance to win 13th Imperial Brother over. Why didn't you say so? After leaving the 9th Imperial Palace, the 9th Prince looked at the person beside him and asked with a puzzled expression. What do you know? Xianling's face turned cold and said, the only race that can surpass the speed of the Sky Rock Clan is the Phoenix race. Do you want me to give 13th Imperial Brother the whereabouts of the Phoenix race's secret technique? The 9th Prince's face froze and said, that's not what I meant. I just said that since 13th Imperial Brother asked, we might as well tell him a thing or two. His teacher is the 9th Imperial Brother, a terrifying figure that even the 3 demon emperors fear. Sooner or later, 13th Imperial Brother will get the information of the Phoenix race's secret technique from his teacher. We might as well take this opportunity to do him a favor. The 9th Imperial Brother and the 3 Demon Emperors can tell him. Only we can't tell him. Xianling said coldly, the existence of the Phoenix has long been a taboo in our Sky Demon Imperial family. Even the 3 Demon Emperors don't want to talk about this race. If we mention it in front of 13th Imperial Brother, won't we be looking for trouble? There are many ways to win 13th Imperial Brother over, but this is not the only way. In the palace of the 9th Imperial Palace, Ningchen picked up the teacups that the 3 princes had used. He walked to the front of the palace and threw them out. The 3rd Imperial Brother, the 7th Imperial Brother, and the 9th Imperial Brother. The 3 princes that he had met today had different personalities and tolerance. The 9th Imperial Brother was not smart enough. It would be difficult for him to achieve great things. He could be ignored. However, the 3rd Imperial Brother and the 7th Imperial Brother were really smart people. To be able to become the crown prince of the Sky Demon Imperial family, these 2 princes were indeed extraordinary. In addition, the Phoenix race's secret technique was very likely to be in the Sky Demon Imperial family. Although Xianling wanted to hide it, the 9th Imperial Brother's attitude had betrayed him. Chapter 1055. In the 9th Underworld King's mansion, since the return of the 9th Underworld King and Ningchen, there had been a continuous stream of nobles coming to visit. As usual, Ningchen received all of them. He didn't refuse anyone who came. He changed pots of tea again and again, and threw away sets of teacups. For a few days, the 9th Underworld King did not appear again. The matters of the mansion were all handled by Ningchen. On the 2nd day after the 7th Prince and the 9th Prince left, the 9th Prince sent 2 maids named Shiyu and Shiqing. Whether it was appearance or temperament, they were the best in the world. Their purpose was self-evident. However, in the few days that the 2 women came to the mansion, Ningchen really ordered them as maids. They served tea, cleaned the mansion, and did not have the slightest tenderness for the fairer sex. At first, Shiyu and Shiqing were still hopeful. However, as the days passed, they gradually lost hope when the young master of the 9th Underworld King's mansion did not show any interest in them. Shiyu. In the palace, after sending off the last batch of guests of the day, Ningchen glanced at the tea set on the table and called out, "Your Highness." Outside the palace, Shiyu walked in, looked at the person in front of her and bowed. "Clean it up and throw it away." Ningchen said calmly. "Yes." Shiyu answered softly. She walked to the table, cleaned up the tea set, and turned to walk out of the palace. Outside the palace, Shiqing looked at Shiyu who walked out, and a strange expression flashed across her beautiful face. "Throw it away again?" Shiyu nodded and answered, "Our Highness is really strange. Every time the guests leave, these used by them will be thrown away." Shiqing looked puzzled. "Just do your job. Don't talk too much." Shiyu reprimanded softly. The nobles had many eccentricities. As servants, they were not qualified to interfere. After being reprimanded by her sister, Shiqing kept quiet and did not dare to ask more. In the palace, Ningchen's face flashed with fatigue after dealing with the nobles for several days. Among the nobles, not all were sensual. There were also many smart people like Xianqing and Xianling. Even he had to be careful when dealing with them. Shiqing. Ningchen saw the woman standing quietly outside the palace and called out, "Your Highness." Outside the palace, Shiqing heard the call, immediately walked in and bowed respectfully. "Do you still have a visiting card?" Ningchen asked. "Your Highness, there are none for the time being," Shiqing said softly. "That's good." Ningchen nodded and said, "Go prepare 2 jugs of good wine. I'll be going out later." Shiqing accepted the order and left with a puzzled look. "His Highness is going out? Does your Highness know anyone else in this 3-emperor city?" Not long after, Shiqing walked into the hall with 2 jars of wine and handed them to her mistress. "Your Highness, do you need me to go with you?" Shiqing asked. "No need. You and Shiyu can stay in the mansion." Ningchen replied. Immediately, he received the 2 jars of wine and walked out of the mansion. Outside the palace, Shiyu and Shiqing looked at each other, their eyes full of doubt. Where was His Highness going? Outside the prince's mansion, Ning Chen headed west under the blazing sun. In front of Three Emperor City, the imperial guards were carrying out their last change of guard. Seeing that everything was in place, Xian Mo was relieved. Although he had arranged the change of guard countless times, he was still a little nervous every time. After all, the change of guard was when the imperial guards were at their weakest, so he had to be careful. After the change of guard, Xian Mo looked at the setting sun and couldn't help but want to go home quickly. Your Highness. At this moment, after the change of guard, the imperial guards who were about to leave saw the person in front of them. They were shocked and bowed respectfully. Get up. Ning Chen said calmly. Thank you, Your Highness. The soldiers of the imperial army stood up and made way. Under the city gate, Xian Mo saw the young man walking over. Why was the 9th Underworld King's disciple here? The entire Three Emperor City knew that the 9th Underworld King's disciple had entered the imperial family and become the 13th prince. Logically speaking, the 13th prince shouldn't have extra energy to come here. Brother Xian, Ning Chen looked at the man in front of him and smiled. Brother Xian Mo, I hope you don't mind. Your Highness has a noble status. I don't deserve it. Xian Mo bowed and said, Brother Xian Mo, you're too polite. Master has been in seclusion these days and I don't know many people in the city. I couldn't find anyone to drink with. I had no choice but to come and disturb you. I hope you don't mind. Ning Chen smiled. Xian Mo looked at the person in front of him. After a long while, he nodded and said, If you don't mind, you can come to my house for a chat. Then I'll have to trouble you. Ning Chen said, Your Highness is too polite. Please. Xian Mo said with a respectful expression on her face. Ning Chen nodded and walked forward with 2 jars of wine. In the southeast of the imperial city, the two walked forward. Not far ahead, in an inconspicuous courtyard, Xian Mo brought Ning Chen over. Pushing open the courtyard door, a delicate-looking woman was busy in the courtyard. When she saw the 2 people walking over, she was stunned. This is the 13th prince, the disciple of the 9th Underworld King. Xian Mo introduced. Hearing this, the woman was shocked. She immediately stopped what she was doing and bowed. Greetings, Your Highness. Ning Chen went forward and helped the woman up. He smiled and said, Sister-in-law, there's no need to be so polite. I came uninvited. I'm sorry to disturb you. Your Highness is too polite. The woman stood up and said, You can continue with your work. I'll take care of the 13th prince. Xian Mo looked at the woman and said, The woman nodded and bowed again. Then, she continued with her work. Your Highness, my house is simple and crude. Please excuse me. Xian Mo said seriously. No matter how luxurious a place is, if you can't be with someone you cherish, it's just a cold decoration. Although Brother Xian Mo's house is simple and crude, with a virtuous wife like you accompanying him, it's better than any palace. Ning Chen said with emotion. Xian Mo heard the former's words and was slightly surprised. These words didn't sound like something a member of the royal family would say. It seemed that he knew too little about this disciple of the 9th Underworld King. Your Highness, please come in. Xian Mo said. Ning Chen nodded and walked into the house. It was a simple house without any luxurious decorations. It was no different from an ordinary house. It didn't look like the house of a commander of the imperial army. The woman brought hot tea into the house and poured it for the 2 of them. She said softly, There's no good tea in the house. I hope Your Highness doesn't mind. Ning Chen took the tea with both hands and smiled. Sister-in-law, you really don't have to be so polite. My identity as a prince was obtained by luck. It's not worth mentioning. On the side, Xian Mo removed the heavy armor and placed it on a table not far away. Then, she walked back to the tea table and said, Your Highness should be busy taking care of the nobles of the royal family. Logically speaking, you shouldn't have time to leave the residence. I've been drinking tribute tea for a few days and I'm tired of it. So, I came to find Brother Xian Mo to drink some wine. Ning Chen smiled. Xian Mo fell silent and said, Your Highness, I didn't say much in front of so many soldiers. Now that it's just the two of us, I won't hide it anymore. If your highness is here to win me over, your highness may have come in vain. I'm not interested in the struggle of the royal family and I don't want to get involved. Ningchen heard this and smiled. Brother Xian Mo, do you know how many times I've said these words? Xian Mo heard this and frowned. What did he mean? Brother Xian Mo, what do you think of my master's position in the celestial devil royal family? Ningchen asked with a smile. Although the royal family has repeatedly obstructed, the ninth underworld king has shown his strength twice. It's enough to shock the entire celestial devil royal family. Except for the three demon emperors, the ninth underworld king's prestige and position is unmatched. Xian Mo said honestly. Then, as the disciple of the ninth underworld king, what do you think my position should be? Ningchen continued to ask. Except for the three crown princes, your highness should be the head of all the princes and princesses. Xian Mo answered. Hearing Xian Mo's answer, Ningchen took a sip of the hot tea on the table and said, I'm not a direct descendant of the royal family, so I can't inherit the throne of the demonic emperor. My master's position is enough to ensure my safety in the whole celestial devil royal family. Brother Xian Mo, do you think I still need to gather supporters? Speaking of this, Ningchen looked at the person in front of him and said with a smile, Don't meddle if you're not in the position. I'm not the three crown princes who need to strengthen their forces to win the chance to inherit the throne. I'm also not the other princes and princesses who need to think of ways to protect themselves. I'm just an outsider with a special identity. It's meaningless to win over supporters. Xian Mo fell silent. What the 13th prince said was true. Was he thinking too much? Brother Xian Mo, you're in charge of dispatching the imperial guards. Your identity is indeed sensitive. It's normal for you to have such doubts. However, you're really thinking too much this time. I'm just here to find someone to drink with. That's all. Ningchen said calmly. Xian Mo listened to the former quietly. He stood up and bowed solemnly, saying, I was being petty just now. I hope your highness won't be offended. Brother Xian Mo, don't be so polite. When I first entered the imperial city, I felt that Brother Xian Mo was a person worth befriending. That's why I'm here today. I've been dealing with the royal family these days and I'm really tired of it. I'm only here to drink to my heart's content. Ningchen said softly. Xian Mo glanced at the 2 jars of wine on the table and said, Your Highness, I'm not used to the wine you brought. Ningchen was puzzled. Could it be that Brother Xian Mo has other good wine hidden here? A real man should drink military wine. Xian Mo said. He raised his left hand and a strong suction force exploded. Instantly, the wooden compartment under the table opened. Jars of strong wine with mud seals appeared. The strong smell of wine rushed out. Looking at the dozen jars of strong wine under the table, Ningchen's face gradually revealed a smile. He said, 2 jars of wine in exchange for so much good military wine. This trip was worth it. In front of the house, the woman saw this scene and silently retreated. She didn't want to disturb the two. Chapter 1056. The moon rose, and the night was slightly cold. In the southeast of the 3 royal city, there was an inconspicuous courtyard that was brightly lit and filled with the fragrance of wine. When the strong military wine entered his throat, he felt a burning sensation, intoxicating him. After 3 rounds of wine, it wasn't the wine that intoxicated people, but they were intoxicated. The two had different personalities and a huge age gap, but strangely, they sat together and drank to their heart's content. Ningchen, who had always been scheming, didn't play any tricks this time. He drank jar after jar of strong wine and experienced the burning sensation. His exhaustion was reduced by a lot. Xian Mo looked at the young man in front of him, and his attitude and view gradually changed. The first time they met, he didn't have a good impression of this young man because he couldn't understand him. A young man who could completely hide his thoughts was terrifying. His intuition told him that this disciple of the 9th underworld king wasn't simple. He had been stationed in the 3 royal city for too long and had seen countless young prodigies. He didn't have a good impression of these nobles who looked approachable but had deep hearts. When he first met this young man, he had the same feeling. However, because of the ninth underworld king, he still held back. Today, when they met again, this young man brought 2 jars of wine to drink with him. His impression of this young man became even worse. Over the past few hundred years, more than one prince had come to rope him in. They all used different methods, but their final goal was the same. He controlled the royal army and was in charge of the safety of the 3 royal city. To the princes, he was a powerful bargaining chip. He didn't like fighting in the Yellow Springs, but it didn't mean that he didn't understand these things. Therefore, when facing this disciple of the ninth underworld king, he didn't want to beat around the bush and directly stated his attitude. However, he didn't expect that this young man would deny and dispel his concerns with just a few simple words. Why would a prince with a noble status who didn't have the right to inherit the throne need to rope him in? He came to find him just to drink. Drunk, looking at the sword under the lamp, dreaming of blowing the horn. 800 miles of troops, the sound of 50 strings blowing across the Great Wall, the soldiers on the battlefield. The horse flies fast, the bow is like a thunderbolt, the string is frightening. Knowing the affairs of the world, winning the reputation of life and death, a pity for nothing. Ningchen looked at the night view outside the window and murmured in a low voice. The strong liquor burned his heart and the tipsy feeling rushed to his brain. His life of struggle gradually turned into memories. When he was young, he led troops to protect Great Xia, bathed in blood, and fought for 10 years to protect his loved ones. When he was young, the gods descended upon the world and the divine prefecture was faced with a calamity. At the moment of life and death, he had to give up everything. He used 500 years of his lifespan to borrow 100 years of foundation from the heavens to resist the power of the gods and sent the gods back to the heavens. When he was in the prime of his life, the 5 regions merged, and the world was in chaos. The land of heaven invaded, and if the lips were gone, the teeth would feel cold. In order to prevent the divine prefecture from being attacked again, he had to fight again with his sword to protect the lower worlds. When he was middle-aged, he traveled to the heavens beyond the heavens in search of a way to resurrect the ghost girl. He battled the celestial trampler and Qinjiao and obtained the immortal divine tree and the jade lake water. When he was 100 years old, his hair had turned completely white, and the undying peach tree had blossomed and bore fruit. The ghost woman had been resurrected, and his life had come to an end due to the heavenly punishment. However, the ghost woman had saved him once again, forcefully pulling him back from the gates of hell and allowing him to live another life. In this life, how would he walk down this path? Ningchen drank mouthful after mouthful of wine. His eyes were somewhat dazed. Perhaps one day, when he woke up from his drunken stupor, he would return to his youth. At that time, he would be in his prime, and he would dare to challenge the heavens. It happened for nothing, it happened for nothing. 100 years. He should have been old a long time ago. At the side, Xian Mo listened to the murmur of the young man beside him, and for some reason, an inexplicable sense of desolation rose in his heart. He had accomplished everything under the heavens, and he had won fame in life or death. It happened for nothing. This was the portrayal of a general in the human world. Why would this young man sigh like this? Xian Mo looked at the person beside him. After a long time, his eyes narrowed slightly. It was only now that he noticed that this young man's long hair had turned completely white. It was not that there were no races among the 100 races that had white hair, so very few people would notice this. However, no matter if it was the celestial demons or the human race, someone of this young man's age and cultivation level would definitely not have white hair. In the 3 imperial city, it was rumored that the 13th prince was a demon from the human world. It was because he had devoured a royal celestial demon that he possessed the royal bloodline. After observing for a long time, Xian Mo sighed softly. It seemed that this disciple of the 9th underworld king had too many unknown pasts. Sister-in-law, sorry to disturb you today. Ningchen walked forward and bowed respectfully. It is getting late. I should go back. Your Highness, are you not going to rest here? The woman asked softly. Ningchen shook his head and said, with my current status, if I stay here for too long, I will only add unnecessary trouble to brother Xian Mo. Then, Ningchen bowed again and said, goodbye. The woman didn't ask him to stay and watched him leave. After Ning Chen left, the woman walked to the front of the door and carefully helped the man up. This young man is not bad. It is just that his life is too tiring. Xian Mo opened her eyes. She was 70% drunk and 30% sober. The disciple of the 9th underworld king can't be too bad. In the Three Emperor City, Ning Chen walked forward. The night was slightly cold. As the cold wind blew, his white clothes fluttered. At this moment, a black moon appeared in the sky, and a cold light pierced through the air without any warning. It was ruthless and murderous. Finally, Ning Chen stopped and looked at the cold light. His right hand gripped the air and the demon sword appeared, killing millions. Heaven and earth couldn't tolerate it. The only one in the world, knowing destiny Marquis. The sword moved in the opposite direction. The cold light shattered. His white clothes flashed past, and his eyes were filled with red. Chapter 1057. The moonlight was cold and the wind was cold. A black moon rose into the sky in the Three Emperor City, and the killing intent suddenly exploded. Under the night sky, the curved blade was deadly. Without any warning, it was already in front of knowing Ming when it appeared. Ning Chen stopped. He gripped his right hand and the demonic sword appeared. With a slash, the demonic aura filled the sky. The blade and the sword clashed. With an ear-piercing sound, the moon demon godly weapon cut the curved blade in half, leaving behind a bloody mark. A slash to the throat was done without any hesitation. The moment the sword was unsheathed, it represented death and blood. The falling figure was covered in black clothes. Blood flowed out of his clothes and dyed the ground red. After defeating the enemy with one slash, Ning Chen was still alert. He glanced around and said coldly, "Come out, all of you." Before he finished speaking, black figures appeared out of nowhere. They held black curved blades and were filled with killing intent. To be able to hide so many death warriors in the Three Emperor City without anyone noticing, it seems like your master's identity is quite extraordinary. Ning Chen said coldly as he looked at the black-clothed assassins around him. "Kill!" With a cold shout, the 10 black-clad assassins moved in unison. The dense saber light was like a cold, black moon, carving out deep ravines in the sky. In the killing trap, Ning Chen held the moon demon godly weapon. His demonic aura surged. His sword was merciless, like a dragon breaking through a city. The 10 demons teamed up to fight knowing Ming. The clash between the blade and the sword raised smoke. It was a battle without a clear winner. Blood spilled everywhere. The god of death had opened his eyes. The moon demon godly weapon was unparalleled. As the blade and the sword clashed, the assassins felt their bodies sink. Their legs could not help but sink into the ground. They could not move. While 5 of them were restrained, the other 5 assassins did not slow down. Their curved blades cut through the air and slashed over. Demonic flames sky attacking. Ning Chen's expression turned cold. He turned his sword around and turned it upside down. Demonic flames surged out as he slashed out, facing the 5 black curved blades. The divine weapon, Demon Shaker Edge, trembled violently. The 5 assassins' expressions changed at the same time. Their bodies soared into the air, flying uncontrollably toward the horizon. Being restrained, Ning Chen's left hand clenched and the red drill weapon appeared. The 2 swords appeared at the same time, and the heavens and earth were instantly split open. A frightening pressure swept out in all directions. The heavenly book was opened, and the world was boundless. Heaven and earth echo, life and death defy fate. The 2 swords joined together, and the 2 divine swords shone brightly. In an instant, the 2 swords soared into the sky and into the ground, and the aurora lights intersected. The 2 swords that split the sky and the earth brought forth a waterfall of dazzling vermilion. The 10 restrained assassins only saw the sky and the earth as bright as day. When they regained their senses, the swords that sealed their throats had already returned to the hands of the plain-clothed young man on the ground. The figure that crashed to the ground smashed out 30 m of dust and sand, and pools of blood dyed the streets of the city a miserable and bright red color. "You guys are too weak." Ning Chen looked at the 10 people who had their throats sealed and said coldly, The one who is still hiding, go back and tell your master that next time, he can either send a king-level battle force or just stay put. I don't have much time, so I don't have time to play with you. As soon as he finished speaking, the inverted water moon in Ning Chen's hand slashed down, and the whole street collapsed 1,000 feet away. The terrifying power was shocking. In front of the sword light, an illusory figure appeared, and his face was full of shock. He was lucky to survive, and he didn't dare to stay any longer. His figure blurred and disappeared. Under the moonlight, Ning Chen waved his hand and put away his swords, then turned and left. In the 9th Underworld King's mansion, Xiyu and Shiqing were waiting in the mansion courtyard, and they didn't go back to rest. The mansion door opened, and Ning Chen walked in. When he saw the two girls, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. "Your Highness." The two girls' expressions became serious, and they stepped forward and bowed. "It's late, go back and rest," Ning Chen ordered. "Yes." Xiyu and Shiqing looked at each other, then bowed together and turned to leave. Ning Chen looked at their backs, and the smile on his face gradually became cold. Without saying a word, he turned and walked into the palace in front of him. Even a fool wouldn't believe that there was nothing wrong with the two maids that the 9th brother gave him. He had only been out for less than half a day, and his whereabouts had been exposed. If it was a coincidence, it was too much of a coincidence. In the backyard of the mansion, the lights in the room were lit. Shiqing looked at the person beside her with a worried expression and said, "Do you think that His Highness has already suspected us?" Xiyu was silent. After a moment, she said softly, "His Highness should have never trusted us. After all, we were sent by the 9th Prince. The 9th Prince asked us to pay attention to the 13th Prince's every move at all times. Are we really going to harm the 13th Prince?" Shiqing looked a little down and said, "I don't know." Xiyu shook her head and said, "The battle between the princes is not something that we can see clearly. We just need to do our job well." "I don't want anything to happen to the 13th Prince," Shiqing said softly. These days, although the 13th Prince had been neither cold nor warm to them, no matter what they did, the 13th Prince had never interfered nor scolded them. They were not fools. They could tell who was a good person. The more time they spent together, the more they could feel the 13th Prince's magnanimity. However, their families were still in the 9th Prince's hands, so she and Xiyu had to follow orders. In the 9th Prince's mansion, a black-clothed figure appeared and knelt outside the imperial palace. "How did it go?" The 9th Prince's cold voice came from the imperial palace. "Your Highness, the 11 men of sacrifice have all died in battle. The 13th Prince's strength should be around the advanced stage of the Red Dust Realm," the black-clothed figure replied. "Advanced stage of the Red Dust Realm?" The 9th Prince frowned slightly. It was really amazing that his 13th brother had such strength when he had just entered the 6th level of the Heavenly Demon 9 changes. It seemed that his 13th brother had learned a lot from his 9th uncle. "Did he see through your identities?" the 9th Prince asked again. "The weapons and martial arts used by our subordinates were all copied from the 1st Prince's personal guards." "I don't think the 13th Prince could see anything," the black-clothed figure replied. The 9th Prince nodded and said, "Okay, you may leave." The black-clothed figure accepted the order and was about to leave. However, at this moment, a streak of light shot out from the imperial palace and arrived in front of the black-clothed man. A palm mercilessly pierced through the black-clothed man's chest. Blood splattered everywhere and dyed the night sky red. "Your Highness," the black-clothed man looked back with great difficulty and saw the familiar and cold face behind him. Only the dead can keep secrets forever. The 9th Prince pulled out his hand from the black-clothed man's chest and said coldly. The black-clothed man fell down powerlessly. He died with his eyes wide open. At the same time, a secret report came from the 1st Prince's mansion. Xianzhen frowned as he read the contents of the report. "What's wrong?" the 5th Prince asked. Xianzhen waved his hand and handed the report to the 5th Prince. "Take a look for yourself." The 5th Prince took the secret report and quickly skimmed through it. A strange look flashed in his eyes. "Someone attacked the 13th Prince?" the 5th Prince asked in surprise. Xianzhen nodded and said, and they used martial arts and weapons from the first prince's mansion. Their intentions can't be more obvious. First, Xian Yu attacked the 13th prince and then someone tried to frame him. It seems like the 13th prince won't be on our side, the 5th prince said calmly. It's fine, Xianzhen said coldly. If the 13th prince is someone who can be fooled so easily, then there's no need to rope him in. The 5th prince sighed and said, the 13th prince's master is the 9th underworld king. If the 13th prince stands behind the other 2 princes, then it's not good for you. Xianzhen was silent as he walked to the front of the palace and looked in the direction of the 9th underworld king palace. After a while, he said, 5th, what are we fighting for? The throne and the fate of the royal family. The 5th prince said seriously, the fate of the royal family? Xianzhen asked softly. The path of the emperor. The 5th prince said in a low voice, so long as you inherit the throne, then you'll have an over 60% chance of stepping into the monarch realm. Even though my celestial devil imperial clan has a long history, its current karmic luck is merely sufficient to support a single crown prince to attain the position of monarch. So, brother, you must fight for it. The path of the emperor. Specks of light flashed through Xianzhen's eyes as he said, our 9th imperial uncle has never obtained even a shred of the karmic luck of the imperial family. Now, he's also infinitely close to the monarch realm. Perhaps it won't be long before a 4th emperor appears in our celestial devil imperial clan. The 5th prince sighed and said, brother, the 9th underworld king is the only one in the sky devil imperial family. Without external help, it's almost impossible to become the emperor. Brother, don't be soft-hearted. There's no turning back now that we've come this far. Xianzhen nodded. The 5th prince was right. There was no turning back now. His rise and fall was related to the fates of too many people. Where's the war king? Is he back? Xianzhen asked. Yes. The 5th prince nodded and said, he's been back for many days. Xianzhen quietly looked at the night sky. After thinking for a while, he said, since the 13th prince can't be used by us, let's give up. In a few days, I'll think of a way to get him out of the city. Let the war king prepare. The 5th prince's face turned solemn when he heard this. He said, brother, once the war king makes a move, the 13th prince and we will fight to the death. I understand. Xianzhen said softly, that's why I arranged for the war king to make a move. I'll only be at ease if he makes a move. We only have one chance. We can only succeed. How should we deal with the 9th uncle? The 5th prince asked. The same as what they did today. Xianzhen said indifferently, since they like to push the blame onto others, we'll let them have a taste of it. In the 9th underworld king's manor, Ningchen stood quietly in front of the royal palace. He looked at the dark clouds above the 3 royal city with ripples in his eyes. Soon, the 3 royal city would no longer be peaceful. Without a doubt, his appearance had caused many forces to be restless. The battle for the throne and the battle for benefits would make the 3 royal city even more chaotic. However, this was something he was happy to see. Next, it was his turn to make a move. Chapter 1058. The sun rose in the east of the 3 imperial city. The doors of the crown prince's palace were wide open as usual. In the distance, a silhouette in plain clothes walked over, facing the rising sun. Her expression was as calm as autumn water, without the slightest bit of hostility. In the crown prince's palace, Xianzhen sensed something and looked into the distance. He's here so quickly. Your Highness, the 13th prince wishes to see you. A guard from the crown prince's palace came forward and bowed respectfully. Invite him in, Xianzhen said solemnly. Yes. The guard turned around and left. Not long after, a silhouette in plain clothes walked into the palace and bowed politely. Greetings, first brother. 13th brother, there's no need to be so polite. Xianzhen looked at the young man in front of him and said calmly. Please have a seat. Thank you, first brother. Ningchen said and walked to the side and sat down. Someone, serve the tea, Xianzhen said. Not long after he finished speaking, A maidservant came from the back of the hall with a cup of green tea and poured tea for the two of them. "Thank you," Ningchen said. "13th brother, may I know why you're here?" Xianzhen asked calmly. "Ever since I came to the Three Imperial City, I haven't had the chance to visit you. Since I'm free today, I came," Ningchen said with a smile. "13th brother, you've just entered the Imperial family, so you'll have a lot of business to attend to. You don't have to be so polite," Xianzhen said calmly. "I still have to be polite," Ningchen said softly. "13th brother, I hope you don't mind that I'm late." "We're brothers, so there's no need to say that," Xianzhen said. "You're staying in the 9th Imperial Uncle's palace for the time being. Is there anything you need? If there's anything, just let me know. 3rd brother and 7th brother have already given me a lot of things. I don't need anything now," Ningchen said with a smile. Xianzhen nodded and said, "1st brother has been busy with the Imperial court and hasn't had time to visit you. Is 9th Imperial Uncle doing well?" "Master is doing well. Thank you for your concern," Ningchen replied. As the two were talking, the 5th prince walked over to the Crown Prince's palace. When he reached the gate, he suddenly stopped. "Guest?" The 5th prince asked the guard in front of the Crown Prince's palace. "Your Highness, the 13th prince is in the residence," the guard replied respectfully. 13. Hearing this, the 5th prince frowned slightly. Why was he here? "5th Highness, this subordinate will go in and report." The guard in front of the mansion said. "There's no need to report. I can enter by myself." After saying that, the 5th prince did not say anything else and walked into the Crown Prince's residence. Inside the palace, Xianzhen looked at the approaching figure and said, "13th brother, your 5th brother is here." As soon as he finished speaking, the 5th prince walked into the hall. He first bowed to the master of the Crown Prince's mansion. Soon after, he looked at the young figure beside him and smiled. "13th brother, we meet again. Greetings, 5th Imperial brother." Ningchen stood up and bowed. "You're welcome." The 5th prince smiled and said, "I've always wanted to visit 13th brother, but I've been busy helping my brother deal with political affairs these days and haven't had the time. I didn't expect 13th brother to come first. I should be the one coming to visit my 2 imperial brothers," Ningchen said softly. The 5th prince smiled and did not continue on this topic. He looked at the 1st crown prince on the main seat and said seriously, "Royal brother, I have something to report." "What is it?" Xianzhen asked. "Last night, there was a fierce battle in the empire. A total of 11 corpses were left at the scene. Looking at their clothes and weapons, they look similar to your personal guards," the 5th prince said calmly. Hearing this, Xianzhen frowned and said, "5th imperial brother, what do you mean?" "Imperial brother, please don't blame me. I'm in charge of the security of the imperial city. Naturally, I have to be more sensitive. I've already sent people to investigate the identities of the 11 corpses. However, I also need to investigate your matter before I can prove your innocence," the 5th prince said respectfully. Xianzhen looked at the people below him quietly. After a while, he said, "How do you want to investigate?" "Imperial brother, please gather your personal guards. You can check the name list and find out how many people are missing," the 5th prince said softly. Xianzhen was silent. He then nodded and said, "I've sent a few people out to do some work. The rest of them are in the residence. Follow me." After that, Xianzhen stepped down from the throne and walked out of the hall step by step. 13th imperial brother, you should come too." The 5th prince looked at the figure in front of the guest seat and said. Ningchen nodded and followed him. In the sparring field of the Crown Prince's residence, fists were exchanged and it was very lively. It was as intense as a military camp and it made people's blood boil. Dozens of men in silver armor were sparring. None of them used their cultivation and they only fought with their physical bodies. Bang bang bang. Every punch landed on the flesh. The wind from the punches and kicks could break mountains. There are only 36 lunar shadow guards. Now that 5 of them have gone out to do some work, the remaining 31 are here. This is the name list with the 3 Imperial Brothers' golden seals. 5th Imperial Brother, you can check it out. As he spoke, A piece of paper with a golden seal appeared in Xianzhen's hand and flew to the fifth prince. The fifth prince took the paper and looked at the name list. He then walked to the sparring field. In the sparring field, the 31 lunar shadow guards stopped sparring and bowed respectfully when they saw the fifth prince. "Greetings, fifth prince." "No need to be so polite." The fifth prince glanced at them and said calmly, "Take out your tokens. I'll check them." The 31 lunar shadow guards took out their tokens from their waists and waited for the fifth prince to check them. The fifth prince went forward and checked their tokens. After comparing them, he nodded and looked at the two people in the distance. "You're right. I'm sorry, Imperial brother. I was rude. It's my duty. It's what I should do." Xianzhen replied and said, "13th Imperial brother, can you dispel your suspicions now?" Ningchen smiled and said, "I've never suspected that it was Imperial brother who did it." Xianzhen's eyes flashed and he said, "Then, 13th Imperial brother, aren't you here to denounce us?" "Imperial brother, you must be joking." Ningchen shook his head and said, "I left the mansion yesterday on a whim. If I didn't get the news immediately, I wouldn't have time to arrange an assassin. Therefore, Imperial brother, who has never been to the 9th Serene King's mansion, is the most unlikely person. Even if Imperial brother wanted to denounce us, I wouldn't have come looking for Imperial brother." The fifth prince was surprised when he heard this. It seemed that they had underestimated his 13th Imperial brother. "Let's not beat around the bush. 13th Imperial brother, since you're not here to denounce us, why don't you tell me your intentions?" Xianzhen said calmly, "Imperial brother, you've already said that I'm here to visit Imperial brother. I have no other intentions," Ningchen said with a smile. "Why?" Xianzhen said calmly, "I think 13th Imperial brother doesn't have a good impression of me, right?" "Indeed." Ningchen didn't try to hide anything either. He said calmly, "Although Xian Yu's actions weren't First Royal Brother's fault, First Royal Brother and Xian Yu are siblings. Royal Brother can't pretend that nothing happened. If I say that Xian Yu has nothing to do with me, would you believe me?" Xianzhen said indifferently, "I would." Ningchen nodded and said, "Everyone in the imperial family knows that there's almost no interaction between First Brother and Xian Yu. However, blood siblings will always be blood siblings. First Brother can't really stay out of this matter at any time. Even if First Brother wants to completely disassociate himself, the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor won't allow it. It seems that 13th Imperial Brother sees things more clearly than anyone else." Xianzhen's expression turned serious. This was also the reason why he didn't go to the 9th Serene King's mansion to try to win Xianzhen over. As long as Imperial Father was around, Xianzhen wouldn't choose to rely on him. To be honest, among the 3 crown princes, Imperial Brother doesn't admire Xian Qing or Xianling the most. It's Imperial Brother. What a pity. Ningchen sighed softly. Xianzhen looked at the person in front of him and said calmly, 13th Imperial Brother, who do you think is behind the assassination attempt last night? Ningchen smiled faintly and said, "It doesn't matter who it is. The important thing is that his target isn't me, but Imperial Brother. Otherwise, he wouldn't have purposely used the weapons and martial arts of the Moon Shadow Guards. Don't you want to find the murderer for the assassination attempt?" Xianzhen frowned and said, "How dare he act so boldly in front of the Demon Emperor? Even if we find the murderer, as long as he doesn't admit it, Imperial Brother can't do anything to him. If that's the case, why should I waste my time? Don't you think so, Imperial Brother?" Ningchen smiled and said, "I admire 13th Imperial Brother's wisdom." Xianzhen sighed and said, "If you want to live, you can't be too stupid. Although I'm not talented, I don't want to be used by others to eliminate the enemy." Ningchen said softly. Xianzhen fell silent. The truth was that Xianling and Xianqing wanted to use Xianzhen to frame him, and he wanted to use Xianzhen to counterattack. Unfortunately, Xianzhen was too smart. They couldn't use him as they wished. "Imperial Brother, 5th Imperial Brother, there are a lot of things going on in the palace these days. I won't stay any longer. I'll take my leave first." Ningchen bowed with a smile on his face, and then he turned and left. Looking at Ningchen's back, Xianling's expression became serious. What a good 13th Imperial brother. Today, he had a whole new level of respect for him. Imperial brother, why did 13th Imperial brother come here? The 5th Imperial brother frowned and asked. To warn and demonstrate his power. Xianling said seriously, he might have guessed who was behind the incident yesterday. He came here to give that person a warning. Besides that, he also wants to show off his power to me, the first prince. He had to admit that 13th Imperial brother's tolerance was beyond his expectations. He had to be more cautious. However, this also strengthened his determination to get rid of that person. A huge threat that couldn't be used by him must be eliminated with a thunderous force. Otherwise, it would become a disaster one day. Outside the Imperial Palace, Ningchen walked out with a slight smile. His gaze became colder and colder. Imperial brother, you can't estimate his tolerance. Chapter 1059. The sun rose and set in the 9th Underworld King's residence. It had been more than a month since the 9th Underworld King went into seclusion. Over the past month, there had been an endless stream of visits from the royal family. In the residence, there were mountains of gifts and countless treasures. Shiyu and Shiqing became the busiest people in the residence. Every day, they sorted out all kinds of strange gifts. Those that were not used for the time being were all piled in the storeroom. As a new member of the royal family, Ningchen had seen almost half of the royal family in the 3 imperial cities in a month. If not for his extraordinary memory, he might not have remembered who he had received in the past few days. The busy days passed one by one. The assassination a few days ago was deliberately arranged by someone with ulterior motives. In the game between the 3 crown princes, no one dared to make a move without absolute confidence. As for who was involved in the game, the 3 crown princes did not care. A general success was built on thousands of bones. The battle for imperial power had always been cruel and did not allow any mercy. Over the past month, other than the 1st crown prince, Xianzhen, the 3rd crown prince, Xianqing, and the 7th crown prince, Xianling, had sent their own people more than once to investigate knowing Destiny's attitude. Because of the existence of the 9th Underworld King, they were unwilling to give up this important ally. However, after several hints, Ningchen had clearly rejected them. He had clearly expressed his unwillingness to get involved in the battle for imperial power. While the 2 crown princes were puzzled, neither of them was aggressive. After another 2 months, the quinquennial meeting of the 100 races gradually approached. The envoys of each race left for the 3 imperial cities one after another. Since the ancient times, the heavenly demon clan had ruled the primordial demon realm. Except for a few royal families, almost all the major clans had to come to the meeting regularly. Half a month later, as the envoys of the 100 races entered the city, the 3 crown princes were ordered to receive them. For a moment, the 9th Underworld King's residence, which was the center of attention, gradually quieted down. Everyone's attention was temporarily shifted to the meeting of the 100 races. Everyone in the residence could not help but heave a sigh of relief. During the rare quiet time, Ningchen focused on cultivating in the residence. The mysterious 9 transformations coiled around his body like a dragon emerging from the sea, changing unpredictably. Not far away, Shiyu and Shiqing quietly watched His Highness practice martial arts in front of them, waiting for orders at any time. Shiyu, I heard that the envoys of the 100 races have entered the city. The other princes also went with the 3 crown princes to receive the envoys of each race. Why is His Highness not worried at all? Shiqing was bored to death as she stood in front of the hall. She wanted to sit down but didn't dare, so she said in a bad mood. Don't ask too much about His Highness, Shiyu reprimanded softly. Buzz. At this moment, the xianjie around Ningchen suddenly went out of control. The devil chi was vast and mighty. The xianjie turned into a black flame meteor and rushed towards the 2 girls not far away. Ah! Shiqing cried out in alarm. Seeing the black flames rushing over, she was so scared that her beautiful face turned pale. At the moment of crisis, Shiyu did not hesitate to pull Shiqing behind her, using her own body to block the front. At this moment, Ning Chen's eyes suddenly opened within the surging devil qi in the mansion. He took a step forward, and his figure instantly appeared before the two women. Xiao Chen raised his hand and poured in his essence energy. A vast demonic flame surged and clashed with Xian Jie, who had lost control. Amidst the violent tremors, the earth in front of the three of them cracked open. The sky was overturned and the earth surged. It was a horrifying scene. The experts of the three imperial cities all felt the same thing and looked in the direction of the Nine Serenities Palace with surprise. What had happened? Someone had started a fight in the Ninth Underworld King's estate? Everyone in the Great Hall, who was responsible for receiving the envoys of the 100 races, looked at the place where the tremors were coming from. It's the Nine Serenities Palace. In the Great Hall, the 9th prince retracted his gaze and looked at the 7th prince beside him. Xianling nodded. He also felt it. What had happened? At such a sensitive time, there shouldn't be anyone who dared to cause trouble. Send your men to investigate, Xianling said in a low voice. Understood. The 9th prince nodded and quickly walked out. Almost at the same time, the two princes, Xian Zhen and Xian Qing, sent out orders. More than one expert of the Red Dust Realm went to investigate secretly. The arrival of the 100 races was a big event for the imperial family. At this time, no accidents could happen. Otherwise, once the three demon emperors blamed them, no one could bear the responsibility. Inside the Nine Serenities Palace, Ningchen raised his hand to block the Xianjie who had lost control. His demonic qi surged like stormy waves, drowning the entire Nine Serenities Palace. After a few breaths, Xianjie's agitation was gradually suppressed. Ningchen waved his hand and put him away. He looked at the two girls behind him and said, "Are you hurt?" Xiu recovered from the shock and didn't care about herself. She immediately looked at her sister and said anxiously, "Shiqing, you're not hurt, right?" Shiqing shook her head in a daze and answered. In front of the two, Ningchen looked them up and down. After confirming that they were fine, he nodded lightly and said, "Don't stand here. Go back and rest. I'll call you if there's anything." Yu nodded gently and pulled Shiqing, who was a little frightened, towards the backyard. After the two girls left, Ningchen looked at the back of the palace. His expression became serious. He bowed respectfully and said, "Master, these two girls are spies. Can't you see?" A majestic voice came from the back of the palace. "I know," Ningchen replied. "Then why did you save them?" the Nine Serenities King continued to ask. "Although they're wrong, they don't deserve to die. Moreover, I have use for them." "Please spare their lives, Master," Ningchen said softly. "Since you know their identities, I won't interfere anymore. Now is an eventful time. I can't come out for the time being." "You must be careful," the Nine Serenities King reminded. "Thank you for your concern, Master. I will remember it." Ningchen bowed respectfully. The 100 Clans Imperial Court has always been the time for the 100 clans to show their wings to the heavenly demonic Imperial Clan. If you want to fight for a place in the Imperial Clan, this is the best opportunity, the Nine Serenities King continued. Ningchen's expression changed when he heard this. He nodded lightly and said, "I understand." Just as the messengers of the 100 clans arrived one after another, two beautiful figures walked in front of the three imperial city. One of them was extremely beautiful and attracted everyone's attention. It was the Holy Maiden of the Fox Clan, Xiao Xiao. The legendary Heavenly Maiden represented the Fox Clan. As soon as she appeared, she attracted the attention of countless people. There was a rumor among the 100 clans that the current Holy Maiden of the Fox Clan was very likely to be a Heavenly Maiden. Her bloodline was comparable to an emperor's bloodline. It was destined that the Fox Clan would have an Emperor's Path powerhouse in a few hundred years. Compared to the peerlessly beautiful Holy Maiden of the Fox Clan, the woman beside her was not very eye-catching. Her gentle face was not stunning, but she was gentle and pretty. However, next to the Holy Maiden of the Fox Clan, she seemed to pale in comparison. The two entered the city. Xiao Xiao looked at the bustling streets in front of her. A strange look flashed through her calm eyes. Should we go to the Nine Serenities King's residence first or the Great Elder? Xiao Xiao looked at the woman beside her and asked. Let's go to the Great Elder, one said softly. It's inappropriate to go to the 9 Serenities King's residence now. Elder sister is representing the Fox clan this time. We can't be rude. Xiao Xiao nodded lightly and walked toward the Great Elder. The two walked 100 steps forward and suddenly stopped. A figure in plain clothes appeared in front of them. She had a gentle smile on her face as she walked over step by step. Seeing the person who came, Wanner's face bloomed with a smile. Her originally pretty face immediately became very charming. It was like 100 flowers blooming at the same time. It was intoxicating. On the street, the pedestrians were in a trance. It was as if they were intoxicated. Seeing this, Xiao Xiao immediately stood in front of Wan and covered the charm that Wan unconsciously revealed. Ningchen walked forward and looked at the two. He smiled and said, Wan Miss Xiao Xiao, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Greetings, 13th Prince. Xiao Xiao bowed and said, All right, you don't have to be so polite. Ningchen raised his hand and helped Xiao Xiao up. He smiled and said, Miss Xiao Xiao, I'll bring you to the Great Elder first. Then I'll bring you to the Great Elder. What do you think? We'll listen to Prince's arrangement. Xiao Xiao replied. Ningchen nodded and walked in front. He said, Let's go. The Great Elder isn't far from here. We'll be there soon. Young Master Ning, how are your injuries? Wanner asked softly. I've already recovered. Ningchen said with a gentle expression. Miss Wan, are you feeling better? Much better. Wanner smiled. Xiao Xiao looked at the two with complicated feelings. She could see that although Wan didn't like the 13th Prince, she already had a good impression of him. However, she couldn't feel the slightest ripple in the 13th Prince's heart. She had seen many heartless people. However, the 13th Prince wasn't heartless. Why was his heart so hard that she couldn't see the slightest possibility of it melting? What was the person she cared about the most? She didn't want Wan to regret. In front of the Great Elder, Ningchen walked in with the two women. Inside the Great Elder, Xianling, who was receiving the envoys, was surprised when he saw them. It was really strange that the 13th Prince had come out. 7th brother. Ningchen cupped his fists and bowed. No need to be so polite. Xianling calmed himself down and looked at the former. He said, Why are you here, 13th brother? Ningchen smiled and said, You have some friendship with the two princesses of the Fox clan. So, I'm here to send you off. Xianling looked at the two women behind Ningchen. His eyes flashed with surprise. Fox Lady and Saintess. They were indeed as beautiful as the legends said. Greetings, 7th Prince. Xiao Xiao took a step forward and bowed respectfully. Xianling nodded and said with a smile, Saintess, you don't have to be so polite. Since you know 13th brother, you are also my friends. If Saintess needs anything in the future, just tell me or 13th brother. Thank you, 7th Prince. Xiao Xiao stood up and said softly. Just as Ningchen brought the two women to the Great Elder, a young man wearing a scarlet robe with gold appeared in front of the Great Elder. He held the fairy cloud ancient sword in his hand. His eyes were as cold as ice and his aura was as hot as the sun. As soon as the king-level aura appeared, all the Red Dust Realm experts in the Great Elder's Great Elder were shocked. Under the Great Elder's Great Elder, Xianimo looked at the young man walking in front of her. What a terrifying aura! Chapter 1060. The moment the Grand Elder, the young lord of Sunrise Royal City, appeared in the Imperial City, everyone focused and looked into the distance. In the distance, a blazing and powerful aura, like the birth of a divine sun, shook the entire 3 imperial cities. Ningchen turned around and looked at the figure in the distance. His expression froze. He finally came. The young lord of Sunrise Royal City, Yu Yao. In just a few months, he had already stepped into the king level. There was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. For Yu Yao to be able to step into the king level in such a short period of time, one could imagine the shocking price he had to pay. In the Imperial City, following Yu Yao's appearance, all the forces looked over. A king had actually appeared in the young generation of the 100 Races. It was truly shocking. In the west wing of the Grand Elder, in the Peng clan's guest room, the old Peng king who came personally sensed the powerful aura in the distance and said, "Do you feel it? Someone from your generation has already stepped into the king level. Your opponent is not just the 13th prince of the heavenly devil imperial family." So what if he's a king? My heavenly Peng clan has always been good at going against the heavens and slaying deities. Ao Lai snorted coldly. Father is very pleased that you have such confidence. However, you still have to be careful. No matter if it's the 13th prince or this young king, they are not simple. They are your great enemies. The old Peng king reminded seriously. Father, don't worry. I will suppress them one by one and use them as my stepping stones on the path to becoming a king. Ao Lai said with a cold expression. In the 3 imperial cities, a scarlet figure with gold inlays walked past. His pace was not fast, but it was as if 1,000 tons were pressing down on everyone's hearts. The first king of the young generation of the 100 Races had shocked everyone. Not long after, the Grand Elder, the young lord of Sunrise Royal City, walked over. Blazing yang energy surged around his body. Those with weaker cultivations immediately felt their blood surging violently. It was unbearable. Ningchen looked at the figure walking over with a solemn expression. He only felt apologetic towards this person. However, he did not regret it. He knew the consequences of letting a tiger return to the mountain better than anyone else. King Sunrise must die. He could not be soft-hearted. As for Yu Yao, he could no longer care so much. The two looked at each other with surging battle intent. The moment they passed each other, devilish energy and yang energy collided, and the entire world was distorted. A moment later, Yu Yao retracted his aura and continued to walk forward. 9th brother. Xianling glanced at the 9th prince not far away and signaled him with his eyes. The 9th prince understood tacitly. He walked in front of Nes Yao and said, "Please." Yu Yao's footsteps paused for a moment. Turning around, he glanced at the plain-clothed figure behind him and calmly said, "Ningchen, it's time for the grudge between us to end." After saying that, Nes Yao did not say anything else as he strode forward. Wang, who was beside Ningchen, looked worried. This person's cultivation level was too terrifying. Could Lord Ning deal with him? 13th brother. Seeing the 9th prince and Nes Yao leaving, Xianling shifted his gaze towards the man in front of him and asked, "Do you have any grudges with the young lord of Sunrise Royal City? It's a long story that can't be explained in a few words." Ningchen opened his mouth and said calmly, "If there's a chance in the future, I'll tell Royal Brother. Since Miss Xiaoxiao and Miss Wan have come from afar, Royal Brother should take them to rest first." Hearing this, Xianling nodded gently and said, "The Fox clan's guest room is in the east wing. 13th brother, bring the 2 ladies there." Ningchen nodded and looked at the 2 women beside him. "What are Miss Xiaoxiao, please?" After saying that, the 3 of them moved and walked towards the east wing together. In the east wing guest room, Ningchen brought the 2 women over. After arranging the rooms, he said with a smile, "You 2 should rest first. When you're well rested, I'll take you to the 9th Underworld King's mansion for a tour." "Your Highness." In the room, Xiaoxiao looked at the man in front of her and asked in confusion. "Back in the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, you and the young lord of Sunrise Royal City joined forces to fight against the 100 Races. Why are you enemies now?" On the side, one also looked over with concern. "I killed King Sunrise." Ningchen did not hide anything and told her the truth. Hearing this, Xiaoxiao was shocked, and her face was filled with disbelief. The peerless king of Sunrise Royal City? How is that possible? She knew that this 13th prince's combat strength was astonishing, and he was at least at the late stage of the Red Dust realm. However, King Sunrise was an extremely powerful existence in the king realm. He was definitely not someone an ordinary king could compare to. Ningchen saw the doubt in her heart. He smiled faintly and said, "The situation was special at that time. King Sunrise couldn't use his full strength, so I had the chance to kill him." Xiaoxiao recovered from her shock and nodded lightly without asking any more questions. No matter what the reason was, King Sunrise's death at the hands of the 13th prince of the Sky Devil imperial family was a major event that shook the primordial demon realm. How could it be so easy to go against the heavens and kill an immortal? Lord Ning, can I go to the 9th Underworld King's mansion to have a look? Wu asked with a trace of expectation in her eyes. Of course. Ning Chen nodded with a smile and said, Miss Xiao Xiao, it should be your first time in the 3 imperial cities. Let's go together. Xiao Xiao looked at Wan and shook her head after a while. She said, I'm a little tired. Your Highness, please take Wan there first. Ning Chen did not force her. He smiled and said, then I'll take Wan there first. I'll definitely send Wan back safely before sunset. Thank you, Your Highness. Xiao Xiao said softly. She looked at her younger sister and said with concern, The 3 imperial cities are not like the Green Hill. You must listen to Your Highness. Wan nodded and replied, Miss Xiao Xiao, have a good rest. We'll leave first. Then Ning Chen looked at the girl beside him and said, let's go. The two then left the east wing of the Taishang division and walked toward the 9th Underworld King's mansion. The 3 imperial cities were bustling with people. Ning Chen walked with Wan on the streets and enjoyed the unique scenery of the number 1 city of the demon race. Cultivators of the 100 races could be seen everywhere. Khanate, treading immortal, and even the red dust realm were not rare in the 3 imperial cities. Is this your first time leaving the Green Hill? Ning Chen asked with a gentle expression. Wan looked at the bustling scene in the city and nodded. How is it here? Ning Chen chuckled. It's very lively. Wan replied softly, but I still like the Green Hill better. The Green Hill is peaceful. It suits your personality. Ning Chen looked at the bustling pedestrians and said, do you know how much blood is hidden under this seemingly peaceful and prosperous facade? The 3 imperial cities is the place where the various forces of the celestial devil imperial family compete. The darkness inside is chilling. Wan was silent. She knew what Ning Chen meant. But her mother and several elders had already decided. There was no turning back for her. Ning Chen sighed in his heart. The last thing he wanted was to hurt this kind girl. But his heart could not accept anyone else. 2 people walked in front of the 9th Underworld King's mansion. At the gate, 2 guards saw them and bowed respectfully, Your Highness. Ning Chen nodded and led Wan into the mansion. Inside the mansion, the traces of the repairs were still clearly visible. Wan walked in with an intoxicating smile on her beautiful face. In the backyard of the mansion, Xiu felt a strange aura in the front hall. Her eyes flashed. Was there a guest? What's wrong? Shiqing was confused. There's a guest, Xiu said softly. Hearing that, Shiqing immediately jumped down from the bed and said, Then let's go quickly. Your Highness can't handle it alone. Xiu was silent. After a while, she nodded. The 2 left the backyard together and walked towards the front hall. In the front hall, Ning Chen took Wan to visit half of the mansion. He was not as calm as usual. There was always a gentle smile on his face. Not far away, Xiu and Shiqing walked over. When they saw the 2, they could not help but stop. Xiu and Shiqing looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. Who was this girl? These days, they had more or less experienced His Highness's personality. Although he looked approachable, he was actually very difficult to get close to. This girl could make His Highness accompany her so patiently. Was she a princess of the imperial family? Behind the palace, demonic chi surged. The 9th Underworld King, who was in seclusion, opened his eyes. That girl from the Fox clan, she also came. He was satisfied with his disciple in everything except for the emotional aspect. He was as hard as a rock. He did not object to the marriage proposal of the Fox clan king. However, since Ning Chen did not agree, he could not force it. The Fox clan's heavenly daughter was a royal bloodline that rarely appeared in 10,000 years. It was really incredible that 2 of them appeared in this generation of the Fox clan. If Ning Chen could marry a heavenly daughter, his future path of cultivation would not be too lonely. With a thought, heaven and earth shook. A drop of demonic blood flew out and swept forward. In the front hall, Ning Chen felt it. He looked back and showed a strange expression. The demonic blood flew past and swept to under everyone's gaze. In an instant, it entered her body. Ning Chen recovered from his surprise. He looked behind the palace, his heart surging. The demonic blood just now already had the aura of the Emperor path. What was Master's intention? On the side, the demonic blood entered her body. Genuine chi surged around Er's body. 5 phantom fox tails appeared. Then, 4 phantom fox tails appeared again. The damaged foundation was quickly repaired. The appearance of 9 tails at the same time was shocking. 9-tailed heavenly daughter. When Xiu and Shiqing saw this, their expressions changed as they cried out involuntarily. Oh no! Ning Chen's body shook and his expression changed. He looked at the two and released killing intent for the first time. Er's identity as heavenly daughter could not be exposed. These two were the 9th prince's spies and could not be left alive. He raised his hand and activated the divine restriction. The surrounding space was instantly sealed, covering the aura of a heavenly daughter surging around An instant later, Ning Chen's figure flashed and swept toward the two women. Demonic chi surged and he did not hide his killing intent at all. Shiqing, run. Xiu came back to her senses and pushed Shiqing away. She stood in front of Ning Chen alone. Su Yi swept over and directly grabbed the woman's throat. Her killing intent surged. At this moment, it was so cold. Your Highness, please spare me. At the side, Shiqing ran forward and grabbed the former's arm, anxiously saying, Hurry! Hurry up and run. Xiu looked at her sister and said with difficulty. Shiqing acted as if she did not hear anything. Her beautiful face revealed a pleading expression. She said, Your Highness, please let my sister go. I beg you. Chapter 1061. In the 9th Underworld King's mansion, knowing destiny attacked. Demonic chi filled the sky, and its power was shocking. Xiu was restrained. Her life was like a candle in the wind, and it could be extinguished at any time. On the side, Shiqing kept begging. Her voice was so sad that it was unbearable. Ning Chen was unmoved. The killing intent in his eyes became more and more intense. Er's identity could not be exposed. These two could not be left alive. Just as Ning Chen was about to kill, Er opened her eyes and stopped him. Young master, please have mercy. As soon as she said that, the 9 white fox tails disappeared. Er's charming face also disappeared. She stepped forward and gently pulled Ning Chen's arm. Young master, please spare them, Er said softly. Ning Chen looked at the woman beside him and said seriously, They are not from the 9th Underworld King's mansion. They are the 9th Prince's spies. If you let them go, your identity will be exposed. At that time, not only you, but the entire Fox clan will be in great danger. Wana was stunned. After a while, she shook her head and said, They are innocent. The fate of the Fox clan cannot be built on the premise of sacrificing 2 innocent women. Your Highness, my sister and I will never tell anyone what we saw today. Please spare us. Shiqing pulled Ning Chen's arm and begged. Ning Chen's face flashed coldly. Reason told him that only dead people could keep secrets better. However, he could not ignore Wana's feelings. Your Highness, please. Shiqing pleaded with tears in her eyes. With a flip of his palm, the light of the restriction surged and changed. It entered the 2 women's bodies and disappeared without a trace. After doing all this, Ning Chen released his hand and looked at the 2 of them with an icy cold expression. I know that the 2 of you are the 9th Prince's subordinates, and I can overlook what the 2 of you have done in the past. However, if you leak a single word about what happened in the mansion today, then no matter where the 2 of you flee to, the divine restriction I left in your bodies will take your lives at any time. Cough, cough. Xiu coughed violently. It was the first time she felt that being able to breathe was a blessing. Thank you, Your Highness. My sister and I will keep this a secret. We will not tell anyone even if we die. Shiqing was grateful and promised. To the side, Wana sighed softly. In this world, without power, one could only be at the mercy of others. One could not even control one's own life. After the king's hall, the ninth underworld king closed his eyes and did not interfere. He had already done what he should have done. As for how his disciple should be dealt with, he could not force him. In front of the imperial palace, Ningchen looked behind the imperial palace and bowed. "Thank you, master." Ningchen forced the wooden box into the woman's hand and said, not allowing her to refuse. Wana looked at the wooden box in her hand. After a moment of silence, she said softly, "Thank you, young master. We are friends." Words of thanks are unnecessary. Ningchen smiled and said, "In the three imperial city, other than master, I only have you as a friend. So, if there's anything, don't be polite. Just tell me. Although my identity as a prince is like a fox borrowing the tiger's power, it is still useful in many cases." Like a fox borrowing the tiger's power? Wana was puzzled. She did not understand what he meant. Ningchen smiled and explained, "It's just an analogy. It's like a fox borrowing the tiger's power. In the three imperial city, with master here, I can basically do whatever I want." Wana covered her mouth and smiled, "Young master, you know so much." Ningchen smiled. Having lived 2 lives, this was the only thing he could take out. The two then continued to stroll around the mansion. It was a rare moment of leisure. Ningchen did not pay attention to the undercurrent situation outside. He wholeheartedly accompanied Wanner to tour the mansion. After half a day, the smile on Wanner's face became brighter and brighter. She was a quiet and gentle woman. No one would have any thoughts of blasphemy. Unknowingly, the sun began to set in the west. Ningchen glanced at the setting sun and said with a gentle expression, "It's getting late. Wanner, let me send you back. Miss Xiao Xiao is still waiting at the Grand Superior. Don't let her wait too long." Wanner nodded and replied softly. After a while, the two left the mansion and walked towards the Grand Superior. In the depths of the primordial demon domain, in the heavenly demon ancestral land, 3 abnormally powerful auras were floating up and down. They were like the gods at the beginning of the world. They were so powerful that it was hard to breathe. "Did you feel it?" Among the 3 auras, First Demon Emperor asked calmly. 8 Desolation Demon Emperor replied, "There was an extraordinary pressure in Ninth Brother's mansion. It was only for a moment. I couldn't feel it clearly. Send someone to investigate what happened in the 9 Serenities King's mansion today. Everything will be clear," 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor said. The aura just now was noble and pure. It was definitely not something an ordinary person or a supreme treasure could possess. In the east wing of the Grand Superior, Ningchen returned with Wanner. In the guest room, Xiao Xiao was meditating. When she sensed the 2 auras, she stood up and opened the door. "Sister, I'm back." Wanner walked over and looked at the woman in front of her. "You didn't cause any trouble for His Highness, did you?" Xiao Xiao sized up her younger sister. She felt that there was something different about this girl compared to before. Wanner looked at the man beside her. She did not know how to answer. "Did she cause trouble for young Master Ning?" Ningchen chuckled and said, "Wanner was very obedient. I didn't cause any trouble. Miss Xiao Xiao, I brought Wanner back safely as promised. It's getting late. I can't stay any longer. I'll be heading back first." Xiao Xiao nodded. She knew the rules of the Grand Superior, so she did not ask him to stay. She said politely, "Take care, young master." Ningchen bowed, and then he turned around and left. In the east wing of the Grand Superior, Aolai, the young master of the Peng clan, stared at the leaving figure. The murderous intent in his eyes became harder to conceal. He still could not forget the humiliation from before. Now that the 100 clans were here, he was going to return the humiliation back then bit by bit. In front of the Grand Superior, Ningchen looked back at the east wing with a slight smile. "Looks like the warning I gave you back then wasn't enough. You've already forgotten the pain." His casual voice was so soft yet so clear. It was extremely ear-piercing. Bang! The tea table beside Aolai was shattered by a palm strike. The teacups fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. "You're still so narrow-minded. I really don't know where you've grown these days. I hope you won't disappoint me too much this time." Then, Ningchen did not say anything else. He turned around and continued walking forward. In the east wing of the Grand Superior, Ao Lai clenched his fists tightly. Killing intent surged from his body, and his fury was hard to suppress. At the same time, in the guest room in the north wing, a young figure dressed in a scarlet robe with gold inlaid on it was quietly drinking tea. Beside him, the Bi-Yun divine sword was sheathed, and its sword intent was hidden deeply. The young master of Sunrise Royal City, who had undergone a complete transformation, regardless of his temperament or cultivation, was completely different from before. He was deep and cold, powerful and reserved. As the first person of the 100 Clan's younger generation to step into the realm of king, he was gradually touching upon the level of the world's pinnacle experts. In front of the Grand Superior, the white-clothed figure gradually walked away. 1,000 meters away, the heavens and earth suddenly changed, and the wind and clouds lost their color. The divine sun that appeared out of thin air came without any warning. Its might was astonishing. Like the scorching sun of a large world, it vaporized all the water vapor within a radius of 1,000 kilometers. Ningchen stopped. Looking at the divine sun that appeared in front of him, he calmly said, "Are you preparing to take revenge now?" In the north wing of the Grand Superior, Ness Yao, who was still sitting in front of the tea table, spoke up. "There's no rush. I'm just greeting him, and at the same time, I want to see how much His Highness has grown these days." When his words fell, in front of the Grand Superior, lightning and fire roared. Chapter 1062. In front of the Grand Elder, the divine sun burned the sky and swallowed the body of the knowing destiny state cultivator. Lightning and fire surged, whistling through the heavens and the earth. The shocking power shook the entire 3 imperial cities. The king had yet to appear, but the move of burning the sky was already stunning. In the divine flame, Ningchen was surrounded by runes. The divine seal protected him and blocked the thunder and fire. The divine seal shook the divine sun. The 2 extreme forces collided and were in a stalemate. "I'll be waiting for your challenge." As he spoke, cold air surged in the divine sun. An ancient demonic weapon appeared. The moment it was in his hand, heaven and earth collapsed and the divine sun fell to the ground. The moon and water were reversed, and the sword was sharp again. The clouds dispersed and the wind cleared. The next moment, the white-clothed figure walked out and walked away. In the guest room of the Grand Elder's north wing, the current master of Sunrise City was drinking tea quietly. He had not left his seat since the beginning. After a few months, he had indeed become stronger. Unfortunately, they were destined to be enemies. Go and find out what happened between the 13th Prince and Sunrise City after the battle on the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, Xianjun said in the Crown Prince's residence. The 5th Prince nodded and walked to the Imperial Palace. The enmity between the 13th Prince and the young Lord of Sunrise City was indeed strange. They more or less knew what happened on the Blood Moon ancient battlefield. Why did the 2 who were friends become enemies now? Almost at the same time, orders were sent out from the residences of the royal family to investigate the matter. The 13th Prince's identity was very sensitive now. He was the target of the 3 Crown Princes. Having the 13th Prince was equivalent to having a Crown Prince's help. In front of the Imperial Palace in the 9th Underworld King's residence, Ningchen stood quietly. He looked at the unpredictable situation in Sanhuang City with a calm expression. The current situation was getting more and more unpredictable. However, he did not care. Back then, the most important thing he learned in the days when he fought with Fan Lingyue was that many times, it was more useful to push the situation forward than to plan step by step. It did not matter to him which of the 3 Crown Princes won the throne. The key was whether he could use this opportunity to achieve his purpose of coming here. "Your Highness." At this moment, Shiyu and Shiqin walked in front of the Imperial Palace and bowed carefully. Ningchen came back to his senses, looked at the 2 of them and said calmly, "What is it?" Shiyu raised her head and looked at the young master of the 9th Underworld King's estate. Barely suppressing the fear in her heart, she said, Your Highness, Shiqing and I are here to confess our identities. Speak, Ningchen said. Shi Yu bowed gracefully, and then told him about her and Shiqing's identities and origins. It was a cliché story without any novelty, but it was the cruelest embodiment of the law of the jungle world. Ningchen quietly listened to Shi Yu's story and didn't interrupt. After a long time, the story was finished. Shi Yu and Shiqing stood there uneasily, as if they were waiting for the verdict. Are you done? Ningchen asked. Shi Yu was slightly startled, and then she nodded and said, I'm done. If you're done, then go back and rest. There are still many things to do tomorrow, Ningchen replied calmly. Shi Yu and Shiqing were stunned when they heard this. They didn't react for a moment. Your Highness. Soon, Shiqing came back to her senses and couldn't help but say, My sister and I didn't mean to betray your Highness. It's just that our families are still in the hands of the 9th prince, so we had to obey his orders. Ningchen nodded and didn't say anything else. Shi Yu and Shiqing looked at each other, and the worry and confusion in their eyes grew stronger. They couldn't understand the meaning of His Highness's attitude. Did he forgive them or not? The two women left with worry and doubt. Not only did the fear in their hearts not decrease, it increased instead. In front of the royal palace, Ningchen was still quietly thinking about things. He didn't take the two women's worries to heart. If you did something wrong, you had to pay the price. You couldn't shirk all responsibility just because you had no choice. In life, who could make everything by themselves? Even he couldn't do it after struggling for 100 years. So, he also paid a heavy price. In the sky, the bright moon moved west. The night gradually passed, and dawn broke. When the sky was about to brighten, 3 extremely powerful auras appeared in the east. The supreme demonic power descended upon the world, waking up the imperial city that hadn't fully awakened. In the 9th underworld king's estate, Ningchen looked to the east with a serious expression. Greetings to the demonic emperors. The 3 demonic emperors appeared. In the 3 imperial city, from the mortal realm to the commoners, everyone bowed respectfully. The grand superiors and the envoys of the 100 races knelt down to greet the 3 demonic emperors. Summon the envoys of the 100 races. With this order, the world was shaken. The order of the demonic emperors spread to every corner of the imperial city. No one dared to disobey the order of the demonic emperors. In front of the 9th underworld king's palace, Ningchen, who had been standing quietly for a night, walked out of the royal palace. At the same time, all the members of the royal family walked out of the 3 imperial city and walked towards the 3 imperial palace. When the 100 races came for a meeting, it was a grand occasion for the royal family. However, it was never peaceful. For countless years, although the 100 races had submitted to the celestial devil royal family, this rise and fall was not absolute. When it came to gains and losses, the 100 races would still fight with all their strength. So, every time the 100 races came for a meeting, it was the time for the 100 races to show their power to the celestial devil royal family, taking the opportunity to fight for more benefits for themselves. After countless years of tacit understanding, the celestial devil royal family also chose to acquiesce. Although the royal family was strong, they did not want to offend all the large clans in the primordial demon realm. In front of the 3 imperial palace, the void swirled, and 3 supreme beings appeared. Dense mist floated up and down, covering the 3 demonic emperors. In front of the 9,000 stone steps, the envoys of the 100 races and the royal family walked over one after another. They stood quietly at the bottom of the stone steps, looking up at the 3 demonic emperors. Greetings, demonic emperors. Everyone bowed and said respectfully, Rise. In front of the first Kuan Emperor Palace, the first Kuan Demon Emperor said, Thank you, demonic emperor. Everyone stood up and stood quietly. Welcome to the celestial devil royal city, envoys. The first Kuan Demon Emperor said calmly. Same old rules. In 10 days, the princes and princesses of the celestial devil royal family will accept the challenges of your successors. All objections will be decided by strength. The 100 races were good at fighting, and the celestial devil clan was even more so. So, No matter what, only those with bigger fists had the right to speak. In front of the 9,000 stone steps, none of the envoys of the 100 races objected. This was their chance to show their power, and they had to cherish it. I'll go first. Beside the old rock king, Aolai was the first to walk out. His arrogant and cold eyes looked at the youngest of the princes of the celestial devil royal family. He said coldly, 13th prince, do you dare to accept my challenge? Everyone was shocked that the young master of the rock race had come out. This peerless talent of the rock race had chosen the most eye-catching prince of the celestial devil royal family first. My condition is simple. If I win, the rock race will not worship me for 100 years. Also, I want your hands, 13th prince, Aolai said with a cold smile. Ningchen looked sideways at the figure in front of him. After a while, he said calmly, you're not worthy. Chapter 1063. In front of the three emperors' palace, the peerless genius of the rock clan provoked. His arrogant words shocked everyone present. Everyone in the world knew that the rock clan was powerful. They were a behemoth that was not inferior to the royal family. They had long had the intention of not following the imperial court. However, the rock clan was not a royal clan after all. Every time the 100 clans came to court, they still had to come. Now, the young master of the rock clan had put forward the condition of not going to court, and he also wanted to cut off the Sky Devil Prince's hands. His bold words made people tremble in fear. The dignity of the imperial family could not be violated, let alone the celestial demon clan that had 3 demon emperors. The 100 race envoys looked at the 3 demon emperors in front of the 3 emperors' palace and waited for the result. In front of the first Kuan emperor palace, the first demon emperor of the demon race was surrounded by a chaotic aura. His powerful aura kept shaking, and the heavens and the earth prostrated themselves before him. The heavy atmosphere became more and more oppressive. No one dared to say a word. It was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Approved. After a long time, in front of the first Kuan emperor palace, the first Kuan demon emperor spoke, shocking everyone. Below, when Aolai heard this, the corners of his mouth curled up in a cold smile. He looked at the figures of the princes and mocked, you don't dare to accept the challenge? Loser, where does your courage come from? Ningchen glanced to the side and said indifferently, since you're so stubborn, I'll fulfill your wish. I'm not interested in your hands, but I want your wings. When Aolai heard this, the killing intent in his eyes intensified. He said in a deep voice, if you have the ability, then bring it over. In front of the 3 emperors' palace, the 3 demon emperors looked down. None of them spoke up to stop them. The rock clan was arrogant and indeed needed to be taught a lesson. They were well aware of 13th Prince's strength, which was comparable to the advanced stage of the Red Dust Realm. Even among the princes and princesses, he was not considered weak. As for the young lord of the rock race, although he wasn't weak, he had only just entered the Red Dust Realm. There was still a big gap between him and the 13th brother. The contest in front of the imperial palace was in a stalemate. The 100 clans' emissaries retreated hundreds of feet, leaving space for the 2 of them. In front of the 3 sovereigns' palace, the 8 Desolation Demon Emperor raised his hand. In an instant, heaven and earth shook, and strange lights filled the sky, creating a space for the 2 of them to fight. Ningchen clenched his right hand. Amidst the surging baleful aura, the scarlet drill appeared. The murderous weapon that had slaughtered countless people once again shone with a peerless sharpness. I have been waiting for this day for a long time. Aolai said coldly. His hands opened and closed. Lightning roared and the halberd appeared. Its ferocious might shook the heavens. The power of the 2 murderous weapons continued to rise, shaking the heaven and earth and splitting the sea. In the next moment, the 2 of them moved at the same time. Qi Lian and Desolate Halberd collided, and a terrifying power spread out rapidly, shocking the world. Just a single move was enough to display their peerless abilities. In a situation where they were evenly matched, no one was able to gain an advantage. Aolai sneered and took a step in the air, his figure instantly disappearing. The speed of heaven and earth was so fast that it was hard to capture. When he appeared again, he was already above the knowing destiny state. He waved his halberd and broke the sky. With a loud bang, the heavy halberd smashed down. The knowing destiny body fell directly to the ground, creating a huge sand wave. It was a shocking scene. Everyone was shocked. What had just happened? In front of the 3 emperors' palace, Kuan-yi, 7 luminaries, and 8 desolation demon emperors had strange expressions on their faces. Everyone in the world knew that the heavenly Peng race was good at speed. However, the speed of the heavenly Peng race was still inferior to that of the Phoenix race. However, at that moment, the speed of the young master of the Peng race was extremely close to that of the Phoenix race. It seemed that they had underestimated the determination of the Peng race. In order not to come again, they seemed to have used some forbidden power. In this way, the 13th brother would most likely be in danger in this battle. The speed of heaven and earth added to the combat power of the young master of the Peng race. It would tilt the balance of this battle sharply. No matter how strong one was, if he couldn't even touch the opponent's body, he still wouldn't have any chance of winning. In the battle, the dust in the sky gradually dispersed. Aolai stared down, waiting for the result. He had used all his strength in the attack just now. He believed that even if the young master didn't die, he would be seriously injured. Below, the dust and sand dispersed, and a white-clothed figure appeared. His white hair danced lightly, and his clean clothes were not stained with a speck of dust. Aolai's eyes narrowed slightly. How could it be? Outside the battle, the emissaries of the 100 clans were also surprised. He wasn't injured? Strange. The heads of the princes and princesses, Xian Zhen, Xian Qing, and Xian Ling, were shocked. They knew very well that the 13th brother's strength was extraordinary. However, it seemed that their 13th brother still had a lot of reservations. On the ground, Ningchen looked at the young master of the Peng race standing in the air and said lightly, "Is that all?" Aolai snorted coldly. Murderous intent rose in his eyes again. He took a step forward and instantly came to the front. He waved the halberd, and it was earth-shattering. With a rumble, the halberd fell, and the ground cracked, spreading thousands of feet away. When he saw the knowing destiny body again, he had unknowingly moved 10 feet away, avoiding the halberd. Aolai frowned. His figure flashed, and the halberd shook the heavens and the earth. It was extremely fast, and its power was shocking. The halberd arrived, but its speed suddenly slowed down. Qi Lian met it head-on, and the aftershock roared wildly. It slowed down. Outside the battle, everyone was surprised. They probably didn't see that the halberd's speed had indeed slowed down a lot. The 13th prince's strength had always been a mystery. In the Blood Moon ancient battlefield, he had defeated the geniuses of the 100 races and won the first seat. In just a few months after coming to the royal family, he had cultivated the heavenly demon 9 changes to the 6th level of the star-shaking realm. As for the 13th prince's strength, the major forces had estimated that he was at least in the late stage of the red dust realm, or even stronger. While everyone was thinking, the battle was getting more and more intense. The young master of the Peng race displayed astonishing speed, waving the halberd with unparalleled ferocity. On the other hand, Ning Chen's figure was like an illusion as he dodged one attack after another. The strange movement technique, the flickering light, and the interference of the divine prohibition made it difficult for the Peng race to touch him. Forbidden heavenly wasteland. After a long battle, Aolai let out a deep roar, and the surrounding thunder surged. The halberd attracted the heavenly thunder, and its ferocious power shook the wind and clouds for thousands of miles. Star's transformation. Ning Chen's expression didn't change. His left palm gathered energy, and the 6 ultimates of the heavenly demon appeared again. In an instant, 6 stars appeared in the sky and fell to the mortal world. The descent of the stars was shocking. Seeing this, Aolai's expression turned serious, and he didn't dare to be careless. He used another 30% of his power to shake the falling stars. With a rumble, the halberd shook the demonic power, and a huge impact erupted. The battle was instantly separated, and layers of the void collapsed. Spatial turbulence swept toward the two. Ning Chen and Ao Lai stepped forward at the same time, avoiding the spatial turbulence. Sword, 11. The red sword spun, and tens of thousands of sword chi soared into the sky. The perfect sword of the mortal world appeared majestically, crisscrossing in a spectacular scene. Ao Lai's figure flew into the sky again, unable to stop. Ning Chen looked at the sky. He took a step in the air, and his body rose from the ground. The plain-clothed figure was the first to reach the sky. His left hand was tilted, and a demonic aura lingered around him. His power was shocking. "Have mercy!" Outside the battle, the old Peng King's expression changed drastically. His figure flashed quickly, wanting to stop him. "Peng King, you've crossed the line." At this moment, in front of the first Kuan Emperor Palace, the #1 Emperor of the demon race spoke faintly. His body did not move, but his technique moved first. The whole world instantly froze, and it was difficult to move. When the Emperor made his move, the old Peng King's body was immediately restrained. It was too late for him to help. In the sky, the demonic aura around Ning Chen became more and more majestic. He raised his hand to grab Ao Lai's wings, and then slapped out, landing on Ao Lai's back. The next moment, a shocking scene took place. A pair of wings on Ao Lai's back were forcefully torn off. Blood spurted out like a fountain, dyeing the sky red. The falling figure smashed a huge deep pit. Dust and sand filled the sky, and it was difficult to hide the rain of blood that fell from the sky. It was a miserable ending. The legendary genius of the Peng race was defeated once again. However, this time, the Peng race's wings were broken, and there was no chance for him to make a comeback. In the sky, the plain-clothed figure slowly descended, holding the wings that were torn off from Ao Lai's back. His white hair danced in the wind, and he looked like a demon. As soon as he said that, the emissaries were shocked again. 100,000 immortal jades? Was he crazy? Immortal jades were precious and could not be reproduced. Even the royal family would not have too many in storage. Since the young master of the Howling Moon royal family was so generous, was he really that confident in his own strength? Sure. Xianling nodded lightly and agreed without hesitation. "Demon Emperor, please grant us your permission." Seeing that Xianling agreed, Song Ming looked at the three princes of the three emperors' palace and said respectfully, "Permission granted." In front of the first Kuan royal palace, a majestic voice said calmly. In front of the 8 Desolation royal palace, the 8 Desolation demonic emperor raised his hand and a small world appeared. The desert appeared in the void, providing a battlefield for the two of them. His shocking ability to split open the sky with a raise of his hand shocked everyone present. The Tao of an emperor could not be described with words. Under the 9,000 stone steps, Xianling and Song Ming stepped on the ground at the same time and leaped into the sky. In the sky above the desert, the two of them arrived and stood in the sandstorm with solemn expressions. "Please." Without saying anything, the two of them moved at the same time and clashed at lightning speed. As soon as they clashed, the heat became white-hot. The two of them kept clashing with each other. They were not kings but were comparable to kings. Their bodies turned into lightning and roared. They were so fast that they died in an instant. Below, the emissaries looked at the intense battle above and were shocked. Is this the strength of the Howling Moon royal family's successor? Heavenly Wolf Howling Moon. As they clashed, Song Ming shouted and his genuine chi shot up to the sky. His black hair danced in the air and his true form appeared behind him. A giant sky wolf appeared and howled at the sky. In an instant, the entire place was filled with sand and wind and thunder. A terrifying force exploded and spread out rapidly. Seeing this, Xianling's face turned solemn. He stepped out and his majestic demonic body appeared. He threw out a punch and met the force head-on. As the two of them clashed, there was an earth-shattering explosion. Around the two of them, sand waves rolled into the sky. As the shock waves from the collision dissipated, a shocking scene appeared before everyone's eyes. Between the two of them, blood flowed out from Xianling's chest. It was extremely eye-catching. Below, the crowd was in an uproar. No one had expected the seventh prince of the Sky demonic royal family to be at a disadvantage. Brother, will the seventh prince lose? In front of the princes and princesses, the fifth prince's face darkened as he asked. No, he won't. He can't lose. Xianzhen replied coldly. As the crown prince of the Sky demonic royal family, he could not lose to an outsider. Regardless of the reason, Xianling must have understood this. Not far away, Xian Yu's face turned solemn. She had not expected the seventh prince to be at a disadvantage. Has the Howling Moon royal family's young master become so powerful? Just as the crowd was in awe, the two of them clashed again in the sky above the desert. The sand waves rolled and the force became more and more terrifying. Around Songming, there was a faint wolf fire. Every move he made had the power to tear the sky apart. Even the Sky demonic royal family's physical body could not withstand it. After more than 10 moves, more wounds appeared on Xianling's body. Facing Songming's storm-like attacks, the situation was getting more and more dangerous. Cloud-covering palm. The two palms clashed again. Xianling took the blow head-on. His right hand gathered yuan and an earth-shattering blow landed on Songming's chest. Songming did not expect such a desperate move. He took a few steps back after the blow landed on his body. Blood splattered and dyed his battle robe red. Songming's face turned solemn. The crown prince of the Sky demonic royal family was not easy to deal with. On the other side, Xianling took the blow head-on. His unyielding fighting soul would not allow himself to be defeated by an outsider. Below, Ningchen watched the two of them fight. His eyes flashed. The Sky demonic royal family's strength was not a coincidence. Xianling's strength was obviously weaker than the young master of the Howling Moon clan. However, Xianling would not lose this fight. If all the warriors of the Sky demonic royal family had such a fighting soul, the future war between the human tribe and the Sky demonic clan would be extremely difficult. On the desert, the battle between the two of them had reached its climax. Their fighting souls burned brightly like the sun. Songming's face became more and more solemn. The situation was gradually evened out. Their fists collided and the two of them took a blow at the same time. Blood splattered everywhere. The accumulated injuries messed up the true qi around their bodies. However, the two of them did not feel anything. Their blood continued to flow and their attacks did not stop. Father! Demon King! Xian Qing and the emissary of the Howling Moon clan walked out at the same time and looked at each other. Your Highness, please speak first. The emissary of the Howling Moon clan said. Xian Qing did not refuse. He looked at the figure in front of the first Kuan Emperor's palace and said, Father, it is difficult to determine the outcome of this battle. If the battle continues, I am afraid it will be a life-and-death battle. The emissary of the Howling Moon clan nodded and bowed respectfully. Demon King, please give the order to stop the battle. In front of the first Kuan Emperor's palace, the first Demon King of the Sky demonic clan looked at the battle in the desert. After a long while, he said, Approved. As soon as he finished speaking, the seven luminaries' Demon King, who had been waiting in front of the seven luminaries' imperial palace, raised his hand. Instantly, the seven suns fell into the mortal world. With a loud bang, the battle in the vast desert was split apart by a powerful force. Two figures flew out and descended from the sky. The result of the battle being a draw was out of everyone's expectations. The Howling Moon royal family had shocked the world with this battle. The Howling Moon royal family does not need to come to court for the next 100 years. The first Kuan Emperor's palace said calmly. Thank you, Demon King. Under the 9,000 stone steps, the emissary of the Howling Moon clan bowed again and thanked him. Behind the princes, Ningchen glanced at the young master of the Howling Moon royal family who was not far away. His heart was stirred. In the future, this person would be a great enemy. On the other side, Biyun hummed softly in the hands of the scarlet-red young man inlaid with gold. Wait a little longer. It will be our turn soon. Ness Yao pressed down on the trembling Biyun divine sword and said softly, You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.